Welcome back. I can't believe it's already day 3 of the Achieve Your Dream Summit. Again, I'm Rick Stewart, and I'm your host for all 4 days of amazing interviews with some extremely knowledgeable and experienced guest speakers who will give you the right tools to positively affect your life and your business. To start things off with a bang, here's Dan, a guy who knows nearly everything there is to know about his life-changing topic. Hey, everybody. Welcome once again to the Summit, Achieve Your Dream. I hope that you've been having a good time listening to some amazing speakers. Well, I got another one. His name is Dan Janal. He's an amazing guy. Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Yeah, Janal rhymes with canal. It's a lot easier.
Janal. I got it. Okay. Now you be quiet while I talk about you. Okay.
I thought we were doing branding here and saying my name over and over and over again.
You can blush, but just let me read. Okay, this is Dan. Everybody ready? Okay. Dan helps heart-centered professionals write books they can be proud of. No matter where you are in the book writing process, Dan can help. Dan has written more than a dozen books, and as an award-winning newspaper reporter, he's interviewed President Gerald Ford and First Lady Barbara Bush. So, before I introduce Dan the man, I want to ask you a question, sir, that I ask of everybody. Since the theme is Achieve Your Dream, I want to know, Dan Janal, what were you born to do? Take it away.
Well, thank you very much. Great introduction. And I'm glad to be on your show. This is a lot of fun. When I was like second, third, fourth grade, I don't remember what, I said I want to be a writer. And I don't know why, but it just came to me. I want to be a writer. I wrote a short story about astronauts. This was back in the 1960s when astronauts were cool. I guess spies were cool too. And I don't know what happened to that short story, but I've always been a writer. I remember in high school, I wrote plays that made fun of our teachers and other people in the class. They were very popular. I wrote a little journal, one of those books with the marble covers, the black and white marbled covers. And
yes.
I had what would be called tweets today. They're like little one-liners about teachers, about observations. I invented tweeting 50 years ago, but who knew? Just one little one-liner. So I guess I was born to do this. So I said to myself, well, I can go to school and become an English major, but English majors, all they can do really is dissect and analyze Herman Melville and James Joyce and Charles Dickens, and that's kind of boring. I want to write plays and books and things, and maybe I'll be a journalist. So I went to journalism school, went to Northwestern, became a journalist, and I was a newspaper reporter down in Florida, and covered city council meetings and school board meetings. I got to tell you, god awful boring. City council meetings, they're talking about how to pick up garbage and contract rates with garbage collecting companies. And it's like, oh man, boring. Not the drama that I was expecting. So I switched into high-tech PR at the beginning of the computer era. Did PR for companies like K-Pro and Commodore when they were synonymous with the words computer. Then I did the PR for AOL at the dawn of the internet era. And I wrote one of the first books about marketing on the internet back in 1993. And that led to speaking engagements literally around the world, from Beijing to Budapest, all across Canada, the United States, Mexico. I taught the first internet marketing class at Berkeley and internet branding at Stanford. It opened a lot of doors for me. So writing books really opened up the entire world for me. And writing books can open up the world for you as well. So that's my story.
Me too. Well, okay. Well, now I have to ask, because this is my heart. What did you do to get there? What all did you do? You've answered a lot of that. You want to add anything to it?
Oh yeah, definitely. You see, it's a long circuitous route. You think the path to success is a straight arrow up. Nah, it isn't. I'm sure I'm not the first person to say that. It's a zigzag. Remember, I want to write plays, and then I want to write books. And it turns out I'm writing marketing books. I know I'm helping other people write their books, whether it be self-help books or memoirs or business books and leadership books. But here's how I got the idea to write a nonfiction book, because I was doing high-tech PRs, I told you, and I was pretty darn good at it. And I had a lot of great recommendations and great testimonials. And I'd speak at conferences and I'd get clients. But here's what would happen at a conference. I'd go to the Software Publishers Conference and I'd lead a panel or I'd do a speech or something. And people would come up to me afterwards and they'd say, hey, Dan, that was a really good speech. I say, thanks. They'd say, we want you to do our PR. I say, well, great. When do we get started? And they would say, well, why don't you send us a proposal first?
Ooh.
I said, ooh, okay, great. So I was young and naive, and I went back to my office and I'd spend 20, 30 hours doing research and thinking of ideas and typing everything and correcting typos and, sweating blood to get this all done. And I'd send it out to them, not realizing that they'd asked every other PR person at that conference for a proposal too, because proposals are free.
Yeah.
Not the time to make it and to write it, but for them, it doesn't cost them anything. We write our proposals for free. And then you wait to hear back, and crickets, they get all these proposals from all these people and they probably say to themselves, this isn't rocket science. We can get our secretary to do it. We can get our an intern to do this, not realizing how hard it really is. Because everyone on this call is probably saying, yeah, we've been there. We've been writing proposals. People think it's brain dead simple. And then they try to do the thing themselves. And before you know it, if they're like a plumber and they turn the knob and like next thing you know, the water main breaks, it's not as easy as it looks. So I said, how do I stand out from everyone else? Because frankly, all my competitors were smart too. We all went to good schools. We all had good clients. We all had good recommendations. We were all young and, full of energy and excitement and enthusiasm. But we're all the same when it comes right down to it. So I said, how do I stand out? And I thought, well, no one's written a book about how to publicize high-tech products. So why don't I write a book about that? Mm-hmm. So I was taking the Dale Carnegie course back then, and I saw the cover of his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. So I created a cover that looked exactly like How to Win Friends and Influence People, called How to Publicize High-Tech Products and Services. And instead of Dale Carnegie's picture in the middle, there was my picture in the middle.
Yay!
And I went to the conference and I did my speech and I did my seminar, and people came up to me afterwards and they said, hey, Dan, we'd like you to do our PR. And I said, great. When do you want a proposal? And they said, no, you wrote the book. When can you get started?
Oh, boy.
That's when the light bulb went off. That's when I realized that a book was the key to making me stand out from everyone else. So folks who are listening to this call, if you're selling insurance, if you're selling real estate, if you're a hairdresser, whatever you're doing, chances are your competitors have not written a book. And whether you're in the President's Club or the Millionaires Club or the 5-Star Club, and so are a dozen of your competitors in your same city, now you can stand out when you write a book. A book is the way to open your way to the world. And as I told you before, I've spoken literally around the world because of the book. The book opened doors. So I hope that answers your question.
Well, it more than answers the question. I mean, it was ding, 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 because the next question that I'd love to ask is, how does your business fit into your dream? And that's what you've been telling us here, that your dream was to become the writer and all of that. And all of a sudden it's ding, ding, ding. We don't need a proposal anymore. Wow. Better than a calling card, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned, because that great question. So it's a great follow-up question, because you don't know the impact you have, whether it be a speech or a podcast or a seminar like this, or even a book. I got an email a couple of years ago from a gentleman in India, and he went something like this: I bought your book back in 1994. It cost me a month's salary. Think about it. America, a book is a book, $15, $20, no problem. In India, that's a month's salary, different economies of scale. So he said, I bought your book. It cost me a month's salary, but because of the ideas in your book, I was able to start my online business. And because of the success of that business, my wife didn't have to work anymore, and I could send my 2 kids to college and pay for it so they don't have any debt. And now, we're living a very nice life because I read your book.
So, your halo is pretty shiny right
Yeah, you don't know the influence you could possibly have. So for me to think that writing a book would be self-actualizing for me and make me fulfill my wishes and my dreams about, being creative and being imaginative and using my literary skills, it's really helping other people around the world live out their dreams too and be self-sufficient and have, happier, healthier lives for their families too.
Wow. Wow. What a great story.
Oh,
My
thank you.
goodness. Well, we've got plenty of time to talk some more. I want to hear, I know that our viewers are going to want something from you. They're going to want something free. They want something great. And I know you have it because you're a writer. So what do you have for our folks that you're going to give them that will help them achieve their dream?
Great. I have a really fun, easy to read, meaning short, downloadable file for you to read. It's called Three Keys to Writing Your Book Fast. And these are basically the big hurdles that people tell me when they sit down to write their book. So this is not my big book on write your book in a flash that teaches you step by step how to write your book. This is the mental image book that says, why am I smart enough to write a book? Do I have content that is going to interest people? Because I've spoken to hundreds of people, and especially with seminars and whatever, people ask questions. It always comes down to the same three questions. Some people just don't feel they have the confidence to write the book. And I'm telling you, you have the ability to write the book right now. The work you've done, the life you've lived, there are lessons there that you can share with people so they don't go through the same pain and experience that you did, so that you can help them avoid those pitfalls that are common to many, many people. And some people say, well, it takes a lot of time to write a book, a lot of content to write a book. Well, if you've done seminars like this, if you've done TED Talks and webinars and podcasts, and if you've written blogs and articles, if you've been interviewed, well, you have a lot of content already. You can use that content. You don't have to start from square one. You might already be halfway done or even more than halfway done. You just might need to talk to an editor to help you get across that finish line, to format your ideas, reshape your ideas, get them into a format that people can really enjoy better, because you can't see the forest for the trees. So those kinds of common objections that are really mindset questions that people use that are defeating themselves. I want to get you over that hump so you actually write your book. So download that freebie. I'm sure you're going to put the link somewhere. 3 keys to writing your book fast.
Now, once they've seen that, once they've read that, and they're on fire, what do they do then? What's their next step?
Well, they can start writing. They can read my book. They can hire me. They can hire another editor. They can talk to me. And if I'm not the right person, I'm certainly happy to refer them to some of my colleagues who might be a better fit, because there are certain things that I just don't resound with me. When you hire an editor, you want to make sure that they fit like a good pair of shoes, because you try a pair of shoes in the shoe store, if they don't fit, it's not going to fit any better 3 weeks later. Just be a lot of pain. So I don't do women's memoirs, for example, but I know people who do. I just don't resound with that. You want to find an editor who, they're not going to know your subject as well as you do, because you're the expert, but they should have some interest in that topic. So if you're doing a book on leadership, the editor should have some familiarity with the topic. Maybe they've edited some books in that topic. They may not know your particular angle, but they have to be interested in that topic. So you want to have a relationship with someone. That's the way I look at it. You want to have a relationship, not just a transaction. You don't want to hire someone just saying like, okay, I need a job. I'll take anything that comes over the transom, no matter how ill-suited I am for it or how boring. That's not me. I want to get excited by my clients. Like I'm wrapping up 2 projects now. One is called the Big Man Bible, and it's a body image book for guys who are like really large. And apparently, I think of a big, large guy like a linebacker or a fullback is like, man, they got it. They love girls hanging off their arms because they're big and strong. Well, the reality is that it could be true for some people, but for my client, he was always being looked at as the big dumb moose. bat. And girls did want to go out with him because he was like really, really super large. I didn't know. Anyway, we had a lot of fun writing that book. It's a great self-help book. There are a lot of body image books for women. I don't know if there are any body image books for men. So we had a lot of fun writing that book as a self-help book. I helped them organize these. We're all outsiders trying to fit in. It's no different if you're big into so it was interesting. I just chiropractic firing, find out if you're bipolar or if you have I was able to have a lot of fun writing too. And I just signed a new client. He's a retired Army general, and he was actually in charge of guarding Saddam Hussein. So how cool is that? So he has some good stories to tell. So we're writing a leadership book for high-tech executives. So I like getting involved with my clients. I like doing projects that are fun for me that I want to get involved in, and that you want to look for. An editor who has like the enthusiasm for your project, maybe the same amount of enthusiasm that you do, or maybe even more enthusiasm, because the Big Man Bible, I saw what that book could be more than the author did. And I think he would agree to that because he wrote a great testimonial for me, because I could see the possibilities there. Because as a writer or an editor, we only know our own little world, but we work with a coach and they work with so many other clients. They see so many other possibilities, and they can draw from those other verticals. And it's like you're a musician. So if you play the piano and then you play the guitar, one thing helps another, muscle memory and whatever. You get stronger with certain fingers here, or you pick up some ideas and some codes, and it translates over from instrument to instrument. Same with writing. So that's what I really enjoy, seeing an idea and making it better.
That is so cool, because I know that you and I are both members of Joint Venture Insider Circle, and there are a few people who work with people with their books, and I can't thank you enough for the advice about resonating. Find out, go to the people and find the one that you resonate with, and that makes a whole lot of sense. There are some people that I find it difficult to coach. They need to be serious about discovering what they're born to do, and when they're not, it's like go find somebody else. Somebody will just listen to you sob. No, that doesn't work. But okay, so somebody, they get all excited about this interview. They get all excited about what they've read in your giveaway, and they call you up. What are you going to tell them? Because that word fast in there, that precludes that you're not going to allow people to get writer's block. You're going to move them on through. And you have a strong personality. So what do you do when somebody calls you up or emails you and they're excited and they want to know, can you help me? They want you to be that authority figure in their life. So how do you go about that?
That's a great question. I'll tell you a funny story. I hope we have time for this.
We do.
When I first started my business, I wanted to be like the nicest guy in the world and say, "Oh, we can take as much time as you need. Real life happens. So if your husband gets sick, or if you're going on vacation, or if your grandchildren are coming, we'll just put things off for a week or two and come right back to it." Little did I realize that when I was being a nice guy, I was actually letting them off the hook.
Yes.
Then they would have excuses and the book would never get done. So as a result, I realized I had to be, I won't say a tough coach, but I had to put boundaries. So I think anyone, and I do mean anyone, can write a book in 4 months or less. So a book today is about 20 to 25,000 words. We're not talking about a thick book, because frankly, people don't want to read thick books. They want to read thin books. They want to read a book that solves their problems.
Yes.
So I tell people, what are the 8 problems that you enjoy solving that your clients have? Because the only reason people read a book is to solve their problems. And the only problems you want to solve are the ones that you like to solve. Like, I got burned out of solving certain problems. I don't want to see that problem anymore. I'm just tired of it. And there's some problems that anyone can solve, and they're just not worth a lot of money. So why sell something that you're not going to make a lot of money on? So you have those 8 problems. Those are 8 chapters. Your first chapter is the introduction chapter. that tells people what the big picture is and tells your personal story, your signature story, so people get to know, like, and trust you. Like I told you about my proposal story. That's my signature story. It says, when I wrote a book, it changed the world. For you, it might be, when I got a coach, it changed the world. So that's your signature story. What changed you is what you're selling. That's a pretty high level tip there. You might want to write that down. Okay. So not many people know that, frankly. Okay. So then the last chapter, the 10th chapter, is the call to action. Because you can't learn how to play the guitar by reading a book. You can learn about theory, you can learn about chords, you can read some music, but you need a coach, you need a music teacher to say, you're going too fast, you're going too slow, use this finger instead of that finger, or you thought you were using this finger, but you really weren't. You were using the other finger. And hold the guitar this way, not that way, that little angle. It makes all the difference. So you need a coach, because you can't figure it out yourself just by reading a book. That's where the coaching and the consulting come in, and that's where the real money is from writing a book. But we'll get to that later. So we have 10 chapters in a book. People want to read short books. We're talking about 20,000 words, 25,000 words. So it's 2,000 words per chapter. That's why I like the number 10. 25,000 words, divide by 10, 2,500. That's like a long blog post. So if you have those if you have those 10 chapters, you have an outline. Now you have no excuse for writer's block, because every day you can sit down and say, okay, I think I'm going to write chapter 3. Chapter 3 is about attitude. What do I want people to know about attitude? Well, there's got to be a story about attitude. There's got to be a case study about attitude. There's got to be some morals and lessons. Maybe you have some statistics. So you have all those things put down in a deep outline for your book. Now you don't have writer's block. So someday you go and you sit down and you say, okay, I'm going to write my book, but I don't have a lot of energy today. Okay, I'm going to get some statistics. That takes no energy whatsoever. I'll go to Google, I'll type, what are statistics on whatever, and you find those, you put them in the book, and you're done. You've done your 15 minutes. So I think if you write 15 minutes a day, you'll write 1,000 words a week. In 20 weeks, you'll have 20,000 words. Write a little bit faster, because once you get started, you write more. It's like doing a sit-up. The first one's a pain in the butt. Second one's a little bit easier. Third one, you start building momentum. Then you do 4, 5, 6, 7, until like the lactic acid builds up. You say, that sucks, and you stop. Same with writing. It takes like, oh man, I got to write. And then you sit down and you say, oh, I got this great idea. I got this other great idea. Then the 15 minutes go by, and you're 20 minutes, you're 30 minutes, you're writing a couple thousand words, and you're on your way. So I think anyone could do that. And when I work with my clients in this 4-month process, everyone writes their book in 3 or 4 months. It's great.
Okay, now you mentioned lesson or chapter 1, 3, and 10. What are the other ones?
Oh, okay. Chapters 2 through 9 are the problems.
Oh.
Chapter 1 is the introduction. Chapter 10 is the call to action. Every other chapter from 2 to 9 are the 8 problems. Thanks for pointing that out.
Wow, 8 problems. My goodness. Well, okay. So you got a roadmap. You got a blueprint for people, and you got lots and lots of experience. My goodness. Okay. Well, I think that as people watch this interview, they're going to be folks who want to come to Dan the man, and figure out what to do. Okay. Let me ask this. You covered some of this, but I just want to hear it again. Someone comes to you and they say, I don't know if I have really a book in me. I don't know if I don't know that I have any subjects. I've got these 4 subjects that I could possibly write about, and they're very, very tentative, and they're skeptical of themselves. They don't have any self-esteem really when it comes to what they can do. I come to you, I'm kind of mousy, but I know well, Dan, I really want to write a book, and I just don't know how to go about it. What's your pep talk?
Okay, great question. There are usually 2 answers to that. One is, gee, who am I to write this book? After all, Professor Smith at Harvard is the world's leading expert on this, and who am I compared to Professor Smith? Well, the answer is Professor Smith isn't writing a book, and you know more than he does, because you know your certain niche, whether it be how to market for small businesses in Arizona, or how to solve problems with children who have a certain condition. I mean, everything can be broken down into certain specialties and whatever. And Professor Smith doesn't know all that. Plus, he's teaching at Harvard. He doesn't need this, you know. So, so there's that. So don't worry about Professor Smith. The second problem that people have with this question is they're not focused on what they want the book to do for them. They don't know why they're writing a book. And that's really the first question I ask people when I interview them. It's like, why are you writing this book? What will the book do for you? Not for the reader, but for you.
That's
So
good.
if someone comes to me and says, well, I want to launch a speaking business to help people so they can overcome their whatever problem it happens to be, I'll say, great. So you want a book to be a lead generator that positions you as an authority so you can get more coaching and consulting so you can help people and build a coaching and consulting and speaking business. That's perfect. Now you know why you're writing the book. So that gets over your introductory question, like mealy mouse, whatever. Well, if you're firmly committed to wanting to help people and be a coach, then you need a book. If you want to be a speaker, you can't even get hired on a stage unless you have a book, because that's the minimum entry requirement, because every other speaker has a book. So that's the way to get through it. And I hope that answers your question. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. It because taking this from scratch, some of our listeners, our viewers, the audience here, they're thinking possibly for the first time, or maybe they thought about it 4 years ago, or 10 years ago, or somebody in their family said, Dad, before you go on, you know a lot of stuff and you need to get it into a book. That's kind of what happened to me. With all of the hundreds of people over 35 years that I have counseled and coached. And it was just, yeah, you can do one-to-one, but you need all of this in a book. And that's when I started to think about it and then actually did it. I didn't have you to help me. I wish I had. Doggone it, would have been a lot faster and a lot easier.
It would have been.
Yeah,
you can do it
sure.
yourself. It'll take a lot longer.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it wasn't
as good as you think. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think the why is the big question. If you have a big enough why, you're going to get through all the dips and the ups and downs and the valleys of writing a book. It's like playing the guitar. You learn a few chords, your fingers hurt, and you say, well, I'm going to stop or whatever. And you work your way through it and your fingers get stronger and the skin gets stronger. Then you reach a plateau and you say, I'm not getting any better. This sucks. I can play Go Tell Aunt Rhody, the old gray goose is dead, but I can't play, Eric Clapton, and I can't play Jimi Hendrix. This is horrible. And then because the muscle memory kicks in and because you have a coach and you have a teacher who teaches you what to do things, suddenly you're playing Blackbird and it sounds really, really good.
Yeah. Well, okay. So you the man, Dan's the man, and people want to know everything that you can do. You haven't touched on, do you do ghostwriting?
I've written a book called Write Your Book in a Flash. It's available on Amazon. That's probably a great way to get started because that'll teach you everything you need to know about writing a non-book from start to finish, chapter to chapter, how to outline, how to do research, everything you need to know is in that book. I can help you as a book coach or developmental editor. I combine both of those together because frankly, I don't know where one ends and the other one begins. The book coach is the person like a guitar teacher. They show you what's right, what's wrong. They work on your mechanics. They help you with the millions of questions that you will have about publishing and writing in general and get you through the depression and the high points and the low points and balance everything out for you. As a developmental editor, that's not a copy editor, it's not a proofreader, that comes much later. The developmental editor is about organization and the big idea. It's about making sure that you have your goal in mind, that you're focused, that your chapters make sense, your stories make sense. People tell stories and maybe in the wrong chapter. I've seen that. People write stories and they say this proves this point. I say it doesn't prove that point. It proves another point, or it's just too long, or you need more dialogue. That's what a good book coach and good developmental editor does. I also am a ghost writer. That's a lot more expensive, frankly, because it takes a lot more work. And the price for that is really based on the topic and how long the book needs to be and the time period needs to be done. And frankly, whether I'm a good fit for it or not. And again, if I'm not a good fit, I'm happy to refer you to other people who might be a better fit. And there are only so many books I can do a year because they do take a lot of time.
Sure. Now, okay, so somebody reads your stuff, they study your stuff, they get as far as they can on their own with your influence from your writings. When should they get in touch with you? When should they talk to you about getting the process really rolling and not hitting all the roadblocks, even though you and I both know this, even though you write it, and even though you tell them what you're going to tell them, you tell them and then you tell them what you told them, and you do it 10 different ways, they're still not necessarily going to get it. And they need you as a coach to make it happen. I equate this with an appendectomy. You don't go to YouTube and find a video on how to do your own appendectomy. No, you hire somebody who does lots of appendectomies. And it's just that I know that people will, I know they'll read your stuff. I'm going to, because I got another book in me, at least 2, and I'm going to read your stuff. But it's getting that ball rolling. Now, what do you suggest? Because most people don't read more than 18 pages in a book. And if they really, really want it going, they may need not that nudge, but the kick in the pants from Dan the Man.
Well, that's when I can work with them. And I like working with clients at the very beginning stages when they have an idea for the book and are committed to writing the book. And I work as their book coach and developmental editor to make that happen. Some of my clients actually come to me after they've written a first draft and they say, can you review this? And is it any good? And I can do a review of that as well. So that's another way I can work with people who've already written a first draft. In fact, one gentleman found me on LinkedIn. He runs a multi-million-dollar HVAC company. That's heating, ventilating, air conditioning. And he wrote a book for other HVAC company owners on how to build their businesses, because apparently those guys are really good on the technology, because you really got to be a scientist to do air conditioning and refrigeration. There's a lot of technical stuff there. These guys are brilliant. They could probably send a rocket to the moon if they wanted to. But when it comes to billing people and charging and hiring and firing and motivating people, they're not so great. So he wrote a book that would talk about the business side of the business. And his copy editor said, you really need a developmental editor. So he found me on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. And I read the book and I said, well, you told this Henry Ford story 3 times and in 3 different chapters. And this story that you wrote here is about loyalty, but it's in the customer service chapter. So you might want to move it here. And your mechanics aren't the greatest in terms of writing, your writing style. So that's why your copy editor is going to clean that up. And also you have some ideas here, but why not turn them into coaching questions so people can make them their own? So in other words, I gave him a whole bunch of ideas that made the book better. Now he could have gone off and done it on his own, but he decided to hire me as well and coach him through the process. So he made all those changes and corrections, and then I would review them and make sure that he actually did what I intended for him to do. And it was a very good book and he's done very well with it. So now he has a coaching business teaching other HVAC owners how to run their businesses properly. So he had a good reason for writing the book, and it turned into, money for him, and also gratification because he's helping other people like himself build better businesses and build better lives.
Well, okay. Now I'll tell you, I know from previous conversations with you that you are heart-centered, as am I. And I think the thing that excites me the most, yes, you are extremely good. Yes, you are seasoned. You've got all the expertise. You've got all of that. But all of this today, I believe, is capable of instilling hope in a lot of people that maybe listening to Dan, maybe I could write a book. Wow, wouldn't that be something? They go tell their wife or their husband or their kids or their mother or their father, and they get excited and they start reading your stuff. They give you a phone call. You're not the type of guy who gets them pumped up. What you do is your stuff is is practicality infused with hope. And I like that a lot. I like what you do. You can borrow that if you want to. Just give me.
Yeah, I've never heard it put that way. I'm gonna write that
Yeah,
down.
byline.
Practicality infused with hope. I love that.
Yeah. I'm full of them. I'll be here all the time. Yeah. So I got one more question for you, and this is on the heart side. I like to ask this, and that is when it comes to living your best life, what advice do you have for our viewers, for our audience?
Oh, cool. I love that question. I heard this said many years ago. I don't remember who said it, but basically, you know, it's your game, you know, use your own rules. In other words, don't compare yourself to others. Don't use the green-eyed monster. I hate Facebook for that very reason, because you see someone leading the perfect life, you know, the Kodak moments, the kids in the Boy Scout is, you know, always an Eagle Scout, and the daughter is always a cheerleader, and they're going on vacation to Naples. And I mean, you just feel like, you know, that's just horrible. In fact, I had a friend from high school, and he had a very tragic life. His wife had MS, and he was working like in a bank with a 9-to-5 dead-end job. And he'd come home from work, and you have to take care of his wife, and the healthcare worker didn't show up half the time. So he found his release on Facebook, and he would like connect with all of his old high school friends like me. But he had such a sad life, and I hate to say it. In fact, he died about 2 years ago, right around this time, which is really tragic. But I would hate to say things like, "Oh, I just got a new client. Oh, I'm writing a book with the general. Oh, I just went on a skiing." But I feel like horrible, you know, bragging when knowing that there are people out in the world who are like just scraping by and doing the best they can, and you know, that just sucks. Anyway, getting back to your question. When you compare yourself to others, it's a no-win game. So if someone else is doing 16 things to market their services on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube, and doing this funnel and that funnel and this promo and that promo, you can drive yourself crazy trying to compete with them. So I said, do I really want to do that? It's like, no, I'm leading a good life. I'm doing certain things I like to do. And if I compare myself to others, then I'm just going to feel horrible. So I'm just going to compare to what I want to do. And I'm not talking about breaking laws or doing anything stupid or whatever, you know, far from it. You know, the golden rule applies above and beyond for everything. But, you know, it's your game. You can decide what your goals are. If you want to be a coach, be a coach. If you want to be a consultant, be a consultant. If you want to join the ICF, join the ICF. If you think the ICF has stupid rules that don't apply to the way you want to coach, then coach the way you want to coach. You know, who says who made them the supreme rulers? So, you know, run your own race. I think that's way better. You know, run your own race.
Mm-hmm. It appears to me, in listening to you, that just about anybody could come to you. Let's say that there's a veterinarian, and he's about to retire, and he has some special advice on how to handle particular breeds, on how to do this, and the personalities of, and he's just thinking, well, I'm past that now. But somebody who just has even an extreme specialty, like there's one woman who's selling recipes on baby food, and she's in a 6-figure income now doing that online, things like that. So people, when people come to you, I'm suggesting to you out there, viewers, audience, that you really consider, what do you have? What do people come to you for? What advice do they ask you about? And when that happens, that is something that obviously they've come to you for a reason. You know more, you have more experience, you have more knowledge. That's when you swing over to Dan. I just love to say Dan the man. You swing over to Dan and you get on a phone call and ask him, what do you think about this? You know, well, I want to write a book on Chihuahuas. What do you think about that? And you'll be able to tell them, yeah. So what have you got so far? I mean, whatever your coaching style is you've let us all know that you've got a lot to offer. A lot to offer. And I really, really, really appreciate that. And I will be picking your brain some more in the future. Just wanted to warn you about that. So, well,
Cool.
we have come to the end of this summit interview, and I'm thrilled with the results. You've been very candid and very open, and I appreciate that a lot. So, everybody, don't forget that you can get this interview and other interviews by upgrading to VIP status, and it's cheap and it's wonderful. And you can go back to listen to Dan anytime you want to. All of our other speakers. So until our next interview, sayonara. Hey, everybody, welcome once again to the Achieve Your Dream Summit. I am very, very excited about our next guest. I have heard Miss Norma speak. I have seen her speak on several occasions, and I have always learned things. I've always been mesmerized, literally mesmerized by what she has to say, because she has a unique perspective. She talks about authenticity. If you have no idea what that means, you will know here pretty soon. And I'm going to read you a little bit about this wonderful lady. Her name is Norma Hollis. She's a change agent who impacts the world in multiple ways. She writes programs for human development around the theme of authenticity and turns them into training processes to deepen self-awareness and expand consciousness. Norma and her programs are catalysts for people who are open to gaining new perspectives about self, life, and living. She was the first Black woman to own a speaker bureau for Black speakers, and she continues to help people find, live, and share their authentic voice. She is a thought leader for multiple organizations and has an international presence in both the professional speaking and professional coaching industries. Norma loves working with people who are committed to making a positive difference in the world. And since the theme here is Achieve Your Dream, I want to ask Norma a quick question, and you're going to love this. All of it, you're going to love this. Miss Norma Hollis,
Yes.
What were you born to do?
Well, Mr. Rick Stewart, I was born to help people connect with their authentic self, people all over the planet, to be the person that they were born to be. That's what I was born to do.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Tell us a little bit more about that. In fact, let me hit you with the next question, because you'll be able to really expand on this. How did you get there?
Well, now that's been an interesting journey. And my journey really has been about listening to my inner voice, listening to the voice that speaks within me. And that's what led me to develop my whole authenticity process. I remember when I was in school as a youngster, everybody asked you, what do you want to be when you grow up? When you grow up, what do you want to be? And my answer was always, I don't know, God hasn't told me yet. So I was just, I knew I had something to do, and I knew that it was kind of important. I felt it. I had no idea what it was. I just really figured it out really in the last 20 years, even though I've been doing it for a long time, because it's so original. I mean, what is authenticity anyway? And why is it important? And why is it that this time of society that I'm doing authenticity, it's so important in the world? And how did that timing come to be? And it took me 30 years to create my system, my program, and 12 years to figure out what it was and what to do with it. And then another few years to get it out there in the world, which is where I'm at now, and getting it in the world in multiple places. So the process was really, it was counter to what they teach you. What they teach you is, when you get that question as a child, what do you want to be when you grow up? You're supposed to have an answer, and you're supposed to follow it, you know. So most kids have 2 or 3 answers. They have, who knows? Who knows? What I've learned since then, that you don't really know who you are until you're about 30 years old. Because when you're going at your parents' house, you're who your parents view of who you are. You're
Right.
living in different values. But when you get in your 20s, you start to actually see the world and see all the different ways that people live and exist, and begin to see yourself in different ways. And it takes a while to adjust to that. So how can you ever expect to understand and to believe what you're going to do in the world when you go to college and you don't even know who you are yet? So everybody I know that went to college and has been in the workforce for 20, 30, 40 years is not doing what they went to college for. So most people. So it's just interesting how society sets us up for these things.
That's one of the reasons why I developed Strategy for Destiny. What were you born to do? Is because the stats show that over 70% of people are not in a job that has anything to do with their college degree, and over 70% of them are miserable.
That's why they're not engaged. Exactly. That's the same
Not
stat.
engaged. That is a good perspective. I got to ask you, when did the term authenticity first enter your stream of consciousness?
Well, in terms of my program or my work being identified as authenticity, that was probably around 2000. So 20 years ago or so.
Mhm.
That was when I owned the Speaker Bureau. I was the first Black woman, as you mentioned in my bio, to own a bureau for Black speakers. And in the process, I learned a lot about people. So my education, my degree is in child and family life sciences. So I spent my first career directing preschool programs, most notably a large Head Start programs in Michigan and California. And that's when I learned about human nature and about human development. And then when I had my Speaker Bureau, well, I saw all these children, in the preschools, coming into the classroom, just living so freely and happy to be alive and glad to be in. And then I met these speakers when I had my bureau who talked about how they lost themselves in the corporate world for 10 to 20 or 30 years, and how they don't know who they are anymore, and they want to be authentic, and they want to speak, they want to talk about their journey and help other people. And so what's that gap? What happens in that gap between preschool and when they realize that they weren't living their dream, as you say, achieving your dream? And so that's the part that I help people to reconnect with, to come back to who they are. People miss that. They miss that authenticity of who they are. So anyway, as I was working on all this, I had one of my employees who actually ended up being like a coach to me. And he says, "You're all about authenticity. It's not just empowerment. It's not this." He says, "You're authenticity." And then I had this grid. I called this grid the golden grid at the time. And that's when I changed it to the authenticity grid and changed my branding to authenticity, and began to see that really was my brand. As I talked to speakers, I could realize first for myself, as far as the platform of being authenticity, I could talk about authenticity with children and raising authentic children because of my background in early childhood. I could talk about being authentic speakers because I had the bureau, and I was moving toward just talking about authentic leadership, which is what I'm doing now. But I could see that identity impacted my past, my present, and my future. So that was truly my identity, and I've had that for over 20 years. So that it kind of came and it stuck and it stayed. So that's what I do.
I am so thrilled that the older I get, the more thrilled I am meeting and talking with and getting to know people like you, and specifically you, because there's so many facets. This piece, this puzzle piece, and it fits into what you have up behind you there.
Yes.
And all of that you teach. It's too bad we're not way back in biblical times when we lived like 600, 700, 800 years, and we can really share a lot with a lot of people. But I'm thrilled that you're getting this down and teaching people what this is all about on a much broader scale, because one-to-one, we're not hitting enough people.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
we need to be out there. Okay, now let me ask, how does your business fit into your dream?
Well, I've done this as a passion, as an assignment, as a mission. Like I said, God didn't tell me what I was supposed to do. I just did it. I didn't know what it was. And I thought all I had to do was create it. And then whatever magic was around it would happen. And it was happening. But then I realized it wasn't happening much and won't happen much unless it gets marketed. Well, therein lied another problem, because most marketers didn't have the time or the depth to understand what I was marketing. I mean, well, I'm not surprised because I didn't know either. I did it, but I didn't know what it was or what it was supposed to. It took me years to figure out how best to do this. But I also realized along the way that a lot of entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs because they come to the planet clear that they have something to do. And the only way to do it is to do it on your own as an entrepreneur. You certainly can't do it. Well, it's very hard to do it working a 9-to-5 job. You know, in my view, 9-to-5 job got in the way of my mission. So I abandoned 9-to-5 jobs a long time ago. I figure out we'll just make it work, and that's what's happened. So you know, it's just really important to do what your heart says to do, and that's what I did. That's what I've done. I didn't know where it would lead. I just did it with faith and follow the voice inside. And so that's what I teach: how to follow the voice inside, because it's what someone said recently: the designer, rather than the creator, the designer. Who designed you? You were designed. You were all uniquely designed. Who designed you? Who's your designer?
Mhm.
And how are you following the design that was structured for you? And what I found in doing this grid that I have was really a step in me understanding me. I was 28 years old and realized I did everything my parents had say to do. I had the husband, the cars, the house, you know, all that great stuff, and I was miserable. And I didn't know what to do. I was, you know, and I married wrong at the wrong time, doing the wrong thing, you know, in the wrong career with the wrong person. I mean, just on and on and on and on.
Phew.
But that's what happens. You know, we grow up being, in many cases, being our parents' version of who they think we should be. You know, my parents thought that for a Black woman in America, the safe thing to do would be to marry a doctor, a dentist, or a lawyer, take care of you. Well, I'm just not the take care of type. So
That's amazing. That's amazing.
yeah, so I had to journey out on my own to figure out who am I. And 30 years later, I had this grid. I first found 9 energies in me, and I made the same design with an animal in each box to identify my individual personality so I could understand myself. And over the course of time, of 30 years of researching all of it and going deeper and deeper, and then testing it with the speakers that were in my bureau many years ago, I learned I had something that really helped people understand themselves. And so that's how it turned into a business, because I could not continue doing it unless I found a way to make money. And it took then 12 years of studying marketing. And one thing that I'm real clear of is that those of us who are the creative designers are not the best marketers. And therefore we need marketing people on our team. Yes, I mean, everybody I know that's creative, you know, the only people that I've met along the way who are very successful financially and are creative and creative stuff, whether speakers or coaches or whatever, they have a marketing partner. They have somewhere in their cadre of people that's supporting them, somebody is a master at marketing and is making that marketing happen. Without that, you just, no matter how great your stuff is, it's very, very hard. If you do it organically, you got to live that 700-800 years you talked about. You can't do it right weekend. It takes a long time. So I've learned marketing, and now I have come to the point of my own authenticity. And this is one of my definitions of when you have achieved authenticity, is when the unseen supporters and the tangible supporters are interconnected and synchronicities happen frequently. The law of attraction happens in synchronicities. Now, when I say unseen supporters, I'm talking about the universe, the spirit, and however you call the designer and all the designer's partners. So however they do what they do, there is a connection. There we have deja vu all the time. We know we have purpose. We have these gut feelings. We have this stuff that happens around us and within us through our 5 senses and other ways. And that's those unseen supporters communicating, connecting with us. And when we can get those unseen supporters to connect with the tangible things that we do in the world, and they work in concert, and really we kind of give up some of it to be more of the servant of the designer, then that's when magic happens. Magic happens and happens and happens and happens. And then that's when the worry goes away. You don't worry because you know that you're on the path with the universe. You're working with the universe. You're working towards your best good. You're being the person you were born to be, in alignment with the other positive energies around you. And if more of us could do that, we'd have a whole different world. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah. Well, I just grabbed one of your phrases: make worry go away. My goodness. Yeah. We're a universe of worriers.
Well, we're taught to worry. We're taught very early to
Yes,
worry.
we are. Not to be
Yeah.
warriors, but to be worriers.
Yeah, right, exactly. And we pick it up. It's an easy habit to pick up. And some of us never ever let go of it. But the hard path of letting go of the things that have become habit and tweaking them. And what I recommend to people is tweaking things one small thing at a time. And after a while, you have transformation. So it's not just shift everything all at once. That's asking way too much. Like saying lose 100 pounds next month. That's asking too much. It's too much. You lose a pound at a time, and
Mhm.
eventually you have 100 of them that go away. So you just tweak a small thing at a time, just a small thing, not the big things, but start with the small things. And pretty soon you look up and they become big things, and you transform to something different or someone different.
That one bite at a time, you finally ate the whole elephant.
How about that?
Yeah.
It tastes a lot better when you can savor it like that.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little A1 sauce would help. All right. Well, I'm through, as I'm sure you are, getting to know Miss Norma a little bit more here, back a whole lot more, and getting inside of that mind of yours, that fertile brain of yours. I know that you have a title to what you're bringing to us today, and we have plenty of time for you to expound on that some. I'll just let you go.
Well, my title is Turning Confusion and Fear into Confidence and Trust.
Wow.
And what that really means is, we all go through confusion and fear. It's a part of life. It's in fact a part of what we're taught. One of the phrases that I use a lot now is a manufactured life, because most of us live manufactured lives with confusion and fear, because we're taught.
I'm writing it down. Yeah.
We're taught, we are programmed, you're programmed to believe that, first of all, that there's Cinderella and Santa Claus and all those things. And then the reality comes and you realize that those things are not true. And then you realize almost everything else you were told as a child is not true. There's no Cinderella, there's no magic castle, there's no fantasy island. It's all the reality that we all have to deal with as humans.
There is a tooth fairy though, isn't there? Isn't there a tooth fairy?
Yeah, it's called Daddy.
Oh yeah, that part. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Santa or mommy, whatever the case might be, or grandma or somebody else. But there are no flying horses, no unicorns, they only exist in our mind. So it's up to us to choose how we want to live our lives. Once the reality hits that we're all gonna die, and that none of those things, the fairy tales really exist. They're just not really real. And then what's left? So what do you have to dream about? So what you have to dream about is really who you can be and how you can be on the planet. And that has a lot to do with really understanding yourself. The research on self-awareness says that it is one of the most valuable things you can have. So for students, for example, students who are more aware of themselves do much better in school. They have more confidence. Then when you think about it, where is it in the world that self-awareness is taught? It's not taught in schools.
No.
It's not taught in churches.
No.
Churches teach you their religious doctrine. Schools teach you how to get a job, how to be employable. Nowhere to teach you how to deal with your emotions, how to know what your potential is, to know what your gifts and talents are, how to interpret the messages that come to your inner voice, because we all get them all the time.
Yes.
We just always recognize them. How do you learn how to read them and interpret them? How do you learn to really decipher between your quality and your quantity network? How do you know, and how do you learn how to discern and judge people who are for your best interests and those who are not, other than the hard way? Most people learn self-awareness through the bullies on the street, and we're talking about elementary and junior high school and high school, which are very difficult to get through when you really go back and look about it, think about it. But, and then we're expected by the time we're out of high school to make a decision about the rest of our life, what we're going to do. And we're told that, the best age for having babies is in your 20s. Well, that's also the best age to get into debt for life. Okay. Now, and that, talk about creating a path for your life. That's how you get off your authenticity. when you give your life away too quickly. And giving them away is following the manufactured life of doing what society would have you do. Have babies early, as early as possible, because that disrupts the whole possibility of you actually being the person you were born to be. Because you have to now worry every week, every day about feeding the babies and getting the rent paid, making sure you got someplace to live. It's hard enough to do it just for yourself.
It is.
But you got to do it for yourself and for a child and for more children. It's not easy, and it's not a Cinderella story at all. And I love for young people to hear this and to have the conversation. I had a conversation with a 30-year-old and a 36-year-old on Christmas Day, and it was they're very much aware. And one statement that they made that I thought I had never thought about. The 36-year-old was saying how there was a big difference, an information gap between him and the 30-year-old. Because the 30-year-old was actually born with a computer in his face, has easier access to information and the knowledge than the 36-year-old who learned it after the fact. Like some of us older ones did. Still, they were younger, but they didn't have it thrust in their face at an early age, but that's all they knew. But the information gap, he was saying the 30-year-old was more informed than he was being 6 years older in just that short period of time. So, part of that I say is because when parents talk about teaching their child to be something, in my generation, it was parents said, well, you should get into computers because that's where the money's going to be. So the criteria for selecting careers is frequently the money and not the skill. And I'm suggesting, particularly with my experience with the preschool children and directing preschool programs and seeing how that transition when people are in corporate America for a few years, how important it is to really be raised by your gifts. Because who can predict what the world's going to be like in 30 years when today's babies are out there in the workforce? So how can you tell that child what the best job would be for that child? I think another approach is to help the child understand what their natural gifts and talents are, because their designer designed them for something. Like you asked a question at the very beginning, what's your purpose? Why are you here? Mm-hmm. And which implies that you believe that we all have a purpose. And for those who are listening to the show, it implies that they probably believe that as well, which I do as well. Mm-hmm. So taking it a little deeper, where does it come from and what do you do with it? How do you work it? Now, I'm going to give another piece of advice for those that are young and have young children or young grandchildren. So in my background is early childhood, and I have spent a lot of time in the area of children's spirituality. So I like to advise to parents that, and now it's easy with the phones that we have now that are cameras, to record these babies, particularly between the ages of 2 and 4. Mm-hmm. Because between 2 and 4 is when you can get glimpses of their purpose and why they are here. So, as I have said before, I've been chastised for saying this, but if you believe there is life after death, then perhaps you can also believe that there is life before birth. Because if you have purpose, where's the consciousness that receives that, if it's not a life before birth? Mm-hmm. So if there's a life before birth, you were likely advised in that life before birth of what your purpose is. Why else would you not say when you get here that, what is my purpose? Mm-hmm. So when a child is 2 years old and is first learning to speak, if you listen carefully, you may hear them tell you about their purpose. You might even ask them, and they may tell you. And they'll talk about it freely until they're about 4-ish. At 4 is when they start to learn how to read. And learning how to read takes you to the other side of the brain and cuts off or I won't say cut it off, but reduces the creativity that you were born with that allows you to attain the memories of before birth. Some people are able to retain it. Most people do not. And I like to encourage parents not to rush to teach children to read. The research, now I have not read the research lately, but when I was in college, a long time ago, I know, but but nonetheless, I don't think humans have changed so much from the
Mhm.
fact that the research says that it doesn't really matter that much what age a child starts to read, they all catch up eventually. So it's in really what is the purpose? It's my belief that if the child understands their spirit and their purpose, they're far better off than if they just understand the academic side of the world, because it's through their heart that they have the relationship, that they build the intimacy, that they build the empathy, that they build on themselves, that they even learn their own self-awareness, which again makes them stronger and then makes them stronger leaders. Research also shows that leaders who are self-aware are more vulnerable and more effective leaders and build more engaging teams. So everywhere you look, the data shows clearly that there's such value in self-awareness and self-knowledge, in knowing oneself and accepting oneself and being oneself and accepting your gifts and talents and developing your gifts and talents and using your gifts and talents in the world. There are about 1,000 different jobs in the world. So once you know your gifts and talents, you're going to fit in some, and there are new ones popping up all the time, especially with the artificial intelligence and so much things going on in the world. So everybody has a place, but your place is lived and your life is lived far more meaningfully, happier and healthier when you're living it, doing what you enjoy, not just what brings you income.
Woo! Wow.
You asked me.
I did. And I just want to throw in that piggybacking on a lot of that you've said, I'm not going to tell people how old I am because I am old, but for over 35 years, I've been helping people one-to-one. And this core strategy for destiny is allowing more people, like you say, the readers. I love being able to give hope and purpose and direction to people who have none of the above, and in a lot of cases. And I ran the gamut at the mega church where I was on pastoral staff, when all of the other pastoral staff, when they got a tough case, somebody came into their office and they thought, oh, how am I going to handle this? Guess where they brought them? To my
Let's go see Rick, Pastor Rick.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, I'm going to take you to see Pastor Rick. Yeah, yeah. But I learned so much. I really did, because I had to handle every situation, whether it was I'm going to commit suicide, I'm going to kill my father, I'm going to get a divorce, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I'm running. Oh, it was rough. It was rough. But now people have you to listen to. You know, they have me to listen to, and if they'll listen, they can get on track, on that track that, like you say, that inner voice. I like to call it, I'm not the originator of this, but a hole in your soul. And there's only so much that there are things that need to fill that hole. Sometimes it's one thing, sometimes it's two or three things. For me, it's three. And for you got so many hole fillers. You got them all over the place. Yeah. I know that you have a really fun gift for our listeners, and it's free. Don't you just love that word? It's free. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Miss Norma?
Yes, well, I certainly would like to invite your listeners to take my authenticity assessment. So I didn't get a chance to explain the grid behind me, but the assessment will begin to explain the grid. It is 9 questions, one for each of the boxes you see on the grid behind me, and that will begin to help you understand. What's an assessment that help you look at yourself and make your own determination, subjective perspective of how authentically you're living your lives in these 9 different dimensions. Now, when you finish the assessment, and again, it is free, you're going to get an invitation to another free thing, which is a score interpretation 1-hour class that I give twice a month. And at that class, I will interpret your scores. When you get your score, people say, what's my score? What's my score? And you get 1 score, but I see 16 different scores. So I'm going to help you look at your scores in new ways and help you, as Rick said earlier, that I have kind of a different perspective on the world and on life and on living. And I will be sharing that with you, and how you can use the scores you get from the authenticity assessment as a way to, as a barometer to decide what to tweak in your life so you can become more authentic.
Mm-hmm. Whew. And I'm sure that that has a value. What?
The value is 197.
Okay.
When you come to the class, and then it raises the value to about 750 because the class is an hour class that normally is 497, and then a little few other bonuses that go along with it.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's kind of the first step of really saying you're ready to embrace yourself. You're ready to really step a little deeper into understanding yourself, or to responding to that hole in the soul, as Rick said, or the knocking from the inside that's trying to get your attention.
Ooh, that's good.
Adjust your life a little bit to make a slight modification. Well, what we do is help you identify where to make that adjustment, and in some cases, how to make that adjustment. And we have a number of other opportunities that I'll share with you at the SCORE interpretation program. But the first thing to do is take the assessment at authenticityassessment.com.
Wow.
And I know you're going to put that up somewhere. And that's where you'll take the assessment. There's no charge. And I will see you on the other side at the SCORE interpretation class.
Wow. 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 Well, someday I have a pipe dream. Are you ready? Are you ready? I want to be on the same stage with you.
And we are right now.
Yeah. Like we are right now. And because I think people's heads will explode when they hear, when you get cranking and they hear what you have to say. When I get cranking and they hear what I have to say, it's going to be like, okay, we're going to find our purpose. We're going to find our passion. We're going to start living that dream destiny and finally be full of joy, and even at times be happy.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you want to do a study on that, joy and happiness are two different things.
Yes, they are.
Yes,
Yes,
are.
they are.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
But
Yeah.
you can be in joy without necessarily being in a happy place.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a little different. All right. I want to ask you a big question, and that is, and I'm gonna look at it because I don't want to get it wrong. When it comes to living your best life, what advice do you have for our viewers, our audience?
My best advice to you is to build a partnership, a relationship with that voice that speaks within you. Now, I'm going to give you a tip about how you can get started with that. So there's 3 questions that everyone asks themselves every single day. Those questions are, what time is it? What am I going to wear? What am I going to eat? We often ask those questions more than once. So I encourage you to just examine how you answer that question or those questions when you hear them. Do you answer them as a thought, as a memory? Is it in your gut? Is it rolling through your blood? Is it a vision? How do the answers come to you? And that's a clue for how your inner voice speaks to you. So I'll give you an example. About 20 years ago or so, I lost 30 pounds. And I was so delighted at that weight loss. I went to a resale shop, and orange is my branding color. This is before I picked orange as my color. I found this beautiful orange St. John suit, size 8, that fit me like a glove, and I looked so good in it. Yes, I did. I love that suit. I still have that suit.
Okay.
Whenever I want to feel like that, I put on that jacket. Even though it is tattered, it will not even get clean anymore. But it still gives me that feeling. And then as I go through life, when I have that feeling, which comes every now and then, I stop and pay attention, because I recognize that's that voice speaking to me, especially when it comes kind of out of the blue or suddenly, unexpectedly. Gets my attention. But I've learned that that's how that voice speaks to me. So I'm suggesting to you to do the same thing, to take those 3 questions that you ask every day. What time is it? What am I going to wear? What am I going to eat? And just examine how you answer them. And that's a clue for the way that your inner voice speaks to you. And then the more you speak to that inner voice, the more connection you build. And I've got so much more to share with you, but just take the assessment and get on my list and see a number of the activities that we have going on. And we'll teach you even more.
Woo! Well, is there anything else you want to throw out there? Anything else? We've got just a few minutes left here. Is there and any more words? I'm ready to explode right now. There is steam literally coming out of my ears. I've learned a lot, as always, from Miss.
Well, I'll give you a little more steam. How about that? One more
Okay.
steam. This is steam. So another way to connect with your voice is something I did when I was 8 years old. When I was 8, I had a lot of pain in my ear and for ear aches and stuff. And my parents didn't really get the level of pain I was in. And so these voices started speaking to me. And I would say to the voices, okay, if you're the voice I should listen to, prove it to me. And let somebody walk by me with the red socks and let someone mention the word elephant in the conversation. And if that happens the next week, maybe I'll believe it. And sure enough, it happened.
Yeah.
And then I kept doing it with a different command for the next 3 or 4 or 5 weeks. And it always showed up. And by that time, the voice said, do you believe me now? Do you believe me? I said, yes. So I've had that connection all my life. And to show you that, in 2016, a friend came to visit me on Thanksgiving Day, and he walked in, he had on red socks. I said, look at that. I said, well, if in the next week I see if someone mentions the word elephant, then I'll understand the meaning means whatever I was dealing with at the time. Well, about 4 days later, I heard elephant as an answer on Family Feud. I said, well, yeah, but it's not really that personal, you know. But then 7 days, the next Thursday, I went to a friend's seminar. And in her seminar, she talked about how we limit ourselves by our sphere of awareness. And she talked about the elephant and how if you tie an elephant's tail to a stake, he'll go in circles and will never really leave the circles of his life like that. I said, there it is. But the really deep thing, Rick, was in 2019, the last event that I had before COVID. I was trying to find something in my box of orange things. The orange is my branding color, to bring and put on the table. And I found something and it spoke to me. And it said to me, I'm your mentor. I'm your mentor. And it's something that had been given to me by my husband, who's no longer with us. And I looked at it and I just said, oh my God, will you look at that? It's an orange elephant with red socks.
No. I was going to facetiously ask you if you ever saw an elephant with red socks. There he is. Right.
And he's orange. And he's orange.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's amazing. It is amazing. But that's my point is, that's how amazing it is when you listen to your inner voice. That's how powerful the energy is. That's how directed and purposeful it is. If you want to get on purpose, get connected with your inner voice. It will take you where you need to be with your inner voice. Can I leave you with that?
Yes, you can. And I am thrilled. Okay, folks. Now, this has been wonderful, right? And I'm sure that you enjoyed our other speakers on the Achieve Your Dream Summit. But I do want you to be able to listen to Miss Norma again. And you know how to do that. You already know. That's by upgrading to the VIP level. Okay? All right. I don't know what it's going to be. I think it's going to be $47. Come on now. That's a drop in the bucket. Then you can listen to Miss Norma. You can get everything that you need from her, because she just covered, I don't know, several hundred years of knowledge and wisdom in this interview. So take care. Just be aware that there is that still small voice. There is that leading. There is that guidance. That guidance is always with you. You can call that guidance whatever you want to call that guidance. But when you give in, when you submit, that's guidance that will take you where you need to go, and it'll take away the confusion and the cobwebs. So until next time, thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure, Rick. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for being a part of Achieve Your Dream Summit. And our guest right now, and I'm going to get her name right, Olivia Parr Rudd. Is that right? Did I do it?
That's
did I do it
right.
Oh,
You did.
I'm so proud. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Olivia. She is a quantum communication specialist. Wow, that sounds very authoritative. And oh, you ready for this one? A wisdomologist. Good grief, you're a scary person. You know that? Olivia is a global thought leader, award-winning and best-selling author, an expert data scientist, and founder of Your Wisdom Institute, a platform to help wisdom bearers become wisdom sharers. That's a big deal. Olivia teaches and mentors wisdom bearers to access, package, and share their wisdom with the world. Olivia has a BA in mathematics and MS in statistics. You are a scary smart person, Miss Olivia. You really are. But my daughter, she's fine now. She's 28. She's fine with math now. But when she was young, she was so upset by math that we got her t-shirt that said, "I don't math."
Well, can I share a little secret? I was
Whatever you want to share, you're on. Go.
When I was young, I was so my mind was so creative. Like today, they'd probably put me on drugs or something, and school was really hard and I could read, but I couldn't really retain. My mind would wander when I was reading, and math came easily, but I was never great in school because I struggled to read and pay attention. I now think that structure just isn't good for creative people, but I made it. But I actually didn't do well until my master's degree. That was the first time I got good grades.
My goodness. So did you get serious with your master's degree then, or?
I did, and I had sort of reined in my mind to be able to concentrate, read, and I did. Yeah, I love reading now, but I didn't read an entire book till I got out of college, honestly. Okay. Like I would read short stories and encyclopedias just to learn stuff, but I couldn't hold on to a narrative for very long. Okay. Yeah. And anyway, and then it was also really pushed on me as I was the third daughter and all my sisters and my mother were big readers. So I think it was a bit of rebellion too.
There's a book in there, or at least the second verse to a country song, I'm sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Wow. So I have to ask, strategy for destiny is what I do. Okay. And I ask the question, what were you born to do? And steer people toward their destiny. Okay. And then give them an action plan. You know all of that about me. So I want to ask you the question, Miss Olivia, what were you born to do?
I think I won't even say I think. I know I was born to help people find and access and package and share their wisdom with the world. It's a lot, perhaps overlaps with what you do. I feel like we all, and today it's all about collaborating. So this is wonderful. But I feel like we all have a gift or more than one to share that we spend our life perhaps uncovering, or some people are lucky and they discover it when they're very young. I took a lot of detours, had a lot of cosmic 2x4s, I call them, that pushed.
I'm going to borrow that from you. I'm going to borrow that one.
Yeah, it's my early life was lots of abandonment with my parents dying very young. And then I was almost died in a car accident. So as a young 20-year-old, I was really lost. And thankfully I did have marketable skills with a degree in math. So I actually liked work. I liked the corporate setting, but I didn't even think to ask that question when I was 20. And then when I was in my 40s or 50s, I was this expert data scientist speaking all over the world. I wrote a book that became a global bestseller on data science. And I kept being pulled into this expert role, but I always had this sense like, this isn't why I'm here. So I think people can access it much younger. I turned 70 this year, and I feel like just within the last few years, I figured out what I'm supposed to do when I grow up. And I think every one of my experiences gave me what I needed. So that's what I help people perhaps shortcut some of that with the work that I do. And I have mentoring programs where I just help people find there's different tricks you can do and things, techniques and practices that help us get in touch with our unique wisdom.
Wow. So I think you pretty much answered, unless you want to add some. The next question that I would ask is, what did you do to get there? Once you decided what you were born to do, what did you do to get there? But yeah, you've explained some of that. You want to add anything to it?
I will, because I was in this corporate setting, making lots of money, getting paid to solve puzzles, but it never spoke to my deep heart sense.
Okay.
And for years I spoke a lot. And then I knew I wasn't fulfilling my purpose. So I started working with clients on long-term contracts so I could do some writing. So that was actually how I kind of uncovered more of it, was that I went after what interested me. And then so it's interesting, I wrote a couple technical books that were very left brain, kind of all research based, right? Lots of footnotes. And then I was guided to write a book about bringing love into business. I figured out, with all the changes, the rapid changes in business, and this is where I want to tap people's wisdom, because I think it could be used not just to help others, but to help businesses. And I have a lot of dear friends that have great business, let's say, models and practices that they have a hard time getting businesses to use because they don't know about them. So I want to make that part of your Wisdom Institute, right? But anyway, so I got this guidance to write a book called, and the title came Love at Work. And I did some research, found some really great data on how companies that treat their employees well and, loving behavior actually make more money. So that was very exciting. Then I started writing without research. It was like, I just started writing kind of that, some people might call it channeling, but just without thinking.
You're channeling you.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I'm tapping my higher self, right? So I just wrote and wrote and wrote, and it was scary because I had no idea if it even made sense. And so that's what I now help my clients do as well, is just how to tap into what it is that wants to come through that we might be blocking, or we don't think we have what it takes, so that's one of the ways. But that was my method for discovering it for myself. And then I came out with this book I actually have here called The Love at Work Method.
Oh, there it is.
This is Love at Work. And then the Love at Work Method is more of expansion on the steps in the book.
Read the line, Love at Work. Read the line underneath it. What is it?
The Essential Guide to a Life of Inspired Purpose.
Oh, that's so good. Do you realize how oxymoronic it sounds that you went from statistics to love?
I know. And it's funny because I now have met others, but there's not a lot that I've known that have this strong left brain aptitude and then have this total passion for heart-centered work. And, there's the whole conscious capitalism movement, which is great. They, in my opinion, they sort of sing to the choir. What my research and my goal is to reach those perhaps like fear-based CEOs that are not evolving because they have too high of a need of control. I want to go in and say, do you realize that if you treat your employees better and open your heart more, you'll actually make more money? Maybe that'll appeal to them enough to because it's not always easy to give up that high level of control. I'm sure most of your listeners have experienced people that have control. They call them control freaks, right? And it's very hard to give that up, but maybe money could be an incentive. So that's my thing.
Well, bringing you in to say what none of the employees can say without being fired, to bring you in to say what is really there, the elephant in the room, or the herd of elephants in the room. I would think that would be very valuable to potential clients, and you out there listening in on this. If you have anybody that you know of who's a CEO or a higher up who needs some wisdom, needs to understand that they don't have to have a stranglehold on everything and micromanage everything. I'm serious. You contact this lady, and you don't have to know how to pronounce her name correctly, but it's Olivia Parrud. That's RUD. All right. Well, it'll be across the bottom for you when when she's done here. So delightful stuff, lady, and you're just getting cranked up. I love this. I love it. So the next question, you're getting ahead of me. Okay, you're just getting ahead of me. The next question I'd like to ask is, how does your business fit into your dream? It does. You've explained a lot. Do you want to enhance that at all?
Yeah, sure. So initially, I just thought I would consult. I was going to try to teach corporate people better communication skills, and then when I started writing this book and got this whole other idea to actually help everyday people bring their wisdom out and bring that into corporations, that got to be very exciting, and so that was where I headed initially. And then recently I studied and got master certified in NLP. And now I'm creating this like quantum communication, I call it, which takes communication and adds in the element of the quantum field, which is where you can connect energetically to people in the same room or thousands of miles away. And if anybody wants to go to my website, I've got tons of free ebooks that talk about all this stuff.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And so I, in a way, I feel like I want to serve a broad audience, and I'm not, I know they all say like, find your niche.
Yeah.
I think I have maybe 2 niches, and the platform is really set up for whoever wants to come and access the wisdom of, I wouldn't say everyday people, but anyone who wants to share wisdom. And I initially got it because I thought, all right, I'm done maybe with my corporate career, but I feel like I still have a lot to offer.
Oh yeah.
Many other people that are, and I've met many that, just sit in retirement homes, and there may be people that like that, but I do think there's others that probably have great knowledge and would love to share it, either by writing a book or getting on stage or just doing interviews, things like that. So my goal is to get interviews with a lot of people like that and have them available on the Your Wisdom Institute platform. And then I want to reach out to other marginalized populations, like people that have been incarcerated or maybe still are incarcerated, homeless people. Like, think of the survival skills they have that I don't know if I could, survive. So I feel like that once I get everything kind of rolling along, then I'll have fun with bringing in all sorts of wisdom from places that people may not be able to access otherwise.
What I have found is that it is exceedingly difficult with most people to get them first to realize that their life experiences, their intellect, all of the bad things and the good things that have happened to them have actually created a reservoir of wisdom that needs to be shared. I have dealt with so many people who say, well, nobody wants to listen to me. I know I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. Or there's nothing about me. But just something that people need to understand is that they need to ask themselves, what subject matter do people come to me for? What did they come to me for? And then I just, out of my knowledge and experience, I say, well, blah, 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 blah. And they're, oh, wow. And then they ask more and they ask more. A gentleman named Dan Miller, who is endorsing my course, he's 48 Days to the Work You Love. And he's built a huge business out of that. And whenever anybody comes to him or Joanna, his wife, and they ask a question, or 3 times, they either write a book or they write a course or they do a CD. And they, so people need to you out there, you need to understand that there are things that that you have knowledge of that maybe doing what you did for the last 20 years or the 25 years. There are people who need to take that and plug that, your wisdom, your knowledge, into making it work better for what they're doing. They don't have to be entrepreneurs. They don't have to be world shakers and shapers. But what if they're really, really good at something that they would love to do? What were you born to do? What's your passion, your vision, your dream? And for you, I mean, you can set these people free. Both of us can. Yeah. I'm so glad we're doing an interview here. This is really cool. Now,
Me
I'm
too.
super excited. Yeah.
Can
all
I
right.
just say too that I often say, what do you love? Where do you find yourself giving advice to people? Right.
There you
That's
go.
a
You know,
good
same
clue.
lines, same lines.
Because
Yeah.
I was one of those obnoxious people that would give advice, because I was paid to solve problems in business. And it was especially around my family. I finally figured out and totally get it now that not everybody wants advice, right? Especially unsolicited.
Yeah.
And that they just want to be heard. And that was a huge wake up call for me. And then I started learning, okay, some people just talk and they process and then they solve it. And that's actually better. Usually their solution's usually better. But certainly people who, one of my blogs is, do you love to give advice? Like it's something because we all feel good when we can help others, or at least I think most people do. And that could be a clue to what you're here to share, or your passion, or, your life purpose.
Well, I have found over 35 years of doing this and hundreds of people being able to help is that they a lot of times need some nudging. They need some more knowledge. They're ignorant, not stupid, but ignorant. Just they don't have all the pieces to the puzzle. And I could sit there with them and say, okay, what you said, what do you love doing? What keeps you awake at night? What do you love talking about? What do you love thinking about? And here's a killer. What would you possibly do for the rest of your life that you don't even charge for? You love it so much. And that gets even the most cocooned people to bust out and maybe with a lot of encouragement from me to become a butterfly, because life is based on relationships, communication, and encouragement.
Absolutely.
And everything else falls under that. And when I'm encouraging you and you're encouraging me, oh yeah, the dopamine just goes.
Can I share one of the things that motivates me?
Do it.
I had this thought one time. I got really clear why I was here and what I was meant to do, and I couldn't get myself to do it. And then I started having this thought, like all these people they talk about on their deathbed, what do they regret, right? Or that I would go to my, soul life, or pass on, die, and then get to the pearly gates, or however, my life review or whatever, and God, or whoever would say, okay, we gave you smarts and looks and all these things that were assets, and you knew why you were there and you didn't do it, and now you have to go back and repeat your life with all those tragedies. And I went, that's like, I know I don't want to have all those cosmic 2x4s again.
No.
So it's sort of an away from motivation, but it works sometimes for me.
Yeah. Well, you and I are in the same age bracket, and I have, as you have, but I have decades of regrets and bad mistakes intermingled with some good ones. I raised two great kids. They've got a life coach as their dad. Of course, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So that part is good, but allowing people to use me, and in some cases just use me up to where I just wanted to give up. Those sorts of things are really rough. And pulling somebody out of that gutter is a real rush for me. It really is, helping somebody do that. And in my course, I do that. And I tell people, you'll laugh at this, but I tell people, nobody cares about your dream except you. You're the only one who can make it happen. And if you don't, the regrets are flying all over the place. You
matter. Like, I want people to know that their dreams do have a purpose. Like, they matter. I mean, in the scheme of things.
Yes. And the phrase that I use when I finally get to the point where somebody is starting to perk up and maybe think that they have some worth, I'll say, I want you to know this: you have great value. That's my most cherished sentence. You have great value, because by the time we get there, they know that I'm being sincere, and they can actually move on with life. And some don't. Some are so broken and so down that they stay there, and that's tragic.
It is. It's very hard. Yeah.
Okay.
But so I think too, and I'm curious if some of your clients struggle with imposter syndrome. That was big for me, that I kind of rose up the ranks to international fame before I felt even that very confident in the data science world. And then to kind of get established and write 3 books and be sought after, and then say like, oh, but that's not what I'm supposed to do, really. In fact, I was in a meditation one time and I asked Spirit, like, I said, I really hate the corporate world. Why am I here? And the message I got was so clear. It says, this is where you need to be to learn the skills to do your real work. And it was like 12 more years before I figured out my real work.
Oh my gosh. Oh, 12 more years. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, you and I are in the same age bracket. So we're, you know, we've got all this wisdom, and it needs to be let out. And that's why I created the course, and that's why you're doing what you're doing. Again, I think it's hilarious. Statistics to love. You know, what a leap that is. My goodness. Yeah. You do have a gift for our viewers, our audience. Can you tell us about that or those or whatever you've got?
I call it a wisdom bearer's blueprint. So it goes way beyond an ebook, and it's a really nice map to just help you access, package, and share your wisdom. And if you just go to giftfromolivia.com,
we'll have it across the bottom there when
okay.
we'll have it.
Yeah. And
well, say it again.
Let me know how you like it. Give the Wisdom Bearer's Blueprint.
Wisdom Bearer's Blueprint. All right. Good.
Yeah. It's like a map to sharing your wisdom.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, what other things about Olivia do you think our audience, our viewers need to know, especially those who have not lived as long as you have, who have not been through all of the guidance? Perhaps they've been left on a shelf somewhere or on the back burner, proverbially, or something like that. But, or the executive vice president who is the son of the CEO, and he hates what he's doing, but so much is expected of him that he's had nervous breakdowns, and he wants to do something else, but he doesn't know what that is. I've actually had the joyful experience of working with some of those people. But from your end, what can you say to people who just might have latched on to this video, and they're saying, oh, well, this looks kind of interesting. I'm going to listen to her. Okay, you're on.
Well, 2 things. First, I would say really try to tap into your intuition and practice that. And if you need to take a course or watch videos, there's ways you can do that. And there's muscle testing techniques that can help you to tap your intuition, because that's, I feel, is where you'll get the best guidance. And then just as a hint, perhaps for your client that has in the corporate job and really doesn't want to stay, I invite people to do a little visualization, to go back to their childhood and see what they were doing when they had the most joy, because that's often a clue to why we're here. And it's rarely sitting at a desk all day, right? So, you know, if you loved playing with animals, maybe that's a path, or with children, or music, or photography. You know, there's just all these things that we give up. And so you've mentioned we're in the same age group. I don't know about where you went to school, but where I went to school, we had art and music. I don't even know if they have it anymore in school.
I'm a composer, by the way.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's right. So I loved both of those subjects, but I was told it's not, you know, you can't make a good living. I mean, that may have been my family programming, but it certainly did sway me. And that's another way I help people bring out their wisdom, is I say, you know, did you give up what you always wanted to do to be the responsible one? You know, because it was really hard to make a living many times following our passion, right?
Yeah,
You know, we
I
always hear
know.
about the
I know exactly.
starving artist.
Yeah.
And I see the world becoming a place where the artists are revered again. And, you know, these are the sense makers and the future bearers and all the things. So I invite people to hone their intuition and their right brain and get as creative as you can, as often as you can.
Yes, yes. Well, when the younger generation hears my rock opera, which I'm hoping to get out within the next 2 years, it's going to wake them up. It's going to wake them up. They're going to say, "Oh, this old guy, wow, he's really creative." But then I've been working on it for about 30 years. So watch
That's
out.
awesome.
Watch out.
Well, so I have a podcast called Your Wisdom Matters. And when I get time, I'm going to get you on it so you can talk about that or whatever.
Well, music is my life. Music is my life, and that's my passion. But my purpose is Strategy for Destiny. My purpose is to leave nobody behind who has something to share, because our society is so messed up. We've got to have some voices of true wisdom, not just, you know, they think they're wise and try to try to quell all the anger that is in our society nowadays. It's just like, don't you have anything, like you said, don't you have any joy? Don't you have anything that brings you joy? Yeah. Ranting and raving on Twitter, that brings me joy. Oh, really? Don't think so. Yeah.
Not long term.
Wow.
And hope. I want people to have hope because the future is very bright, I feel.
Yes. Yeah. And I will say this, that the book, Strategy for Destiny, What Were You Born to Do, that became the course. A dear friend of mine for 30 some years, Dave Ramsey, is a financial wizard, and he's amazing, known all over the world for his financial advice. And he was coaching me on the course and getting the course out instead of just the book. And it makes a lot of difference when I have something that I can give to people. I'm working right now. I'm working on possibly 501c3 so I can give the book away. Would that be fun?
Yeah.
That'd be fun. Yeah. But I want to get on your podcast. I want to talk about music, because that is definitely my passion. And in the 70s, when you couldn't make any money, my band traveled all over the world and sang and entertained people all over the world, especially the U.S. troops. We did USO shows. It was great.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
You're very blessed, as were the troops.
They were, because the girls in the band were knockouts beside being extremely talented. I made sure of that.
So they weren't looking at you.
No, they have no idea what I looked like. No, not at all. No. So and I was the front man, so I told all the jokes, and they still weren't listening to me. They were just looking at the girls. It was
Can you
fun.
blame them?
And what?
I said, can you blame them?
Well, no. Absolutely. Well, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Okay. I love this one. And you're the perfect person to answer this question that in a way that will definitely impact people. When it comes to living your best life, I use that phrase all the time. When it comes to living your best life, what advice do you have for our viewers, for our audience, when it comes to living your best life, the life that God intended? Let me while you're cogitating on that, I want our viewers to understand why the course became the course. And that is because God was beating me over the head with Jeremiah 29:11, which says, "For I know the plans I have for you." Do you have a plan for your life? God said you do. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you." Really? A Christian can prosper? Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope. You mentioned that. Plans to give you hope and a future. If you're not in the future that you need to be, if you're not guiding yourself or having somebody help guide you to the future that's supposed to be yours, the one you've been hoping for, but we're afraid to, you need to do something. You need to change something. You need to do something to make it happen. And I firmly believe that you can do that. You can help people with that. I believe I can too. And other speakers on this summit they're just amazing people. So I've asked you the question, your best life. What advice do you have when it comes to living?
I would invite people to imagine very specifically what their perfect day looks like, what their perfect week, and actually all the way out to the perfect year. So describe where you're living, who you're living with, what you're doing during the day, how many hours are you working or playing or spending in nature, how many weeks out of the month you want to work, how many months out of the year, and get really, really clear on that, where you feel excitement and joy around what you've written out. And then watch, because to me, that's a shopping list for our angels. To say,
go get
I'm attracting what I need to make this happen. And then watch what shows up. And if you feel drawn to do something, to try something, try it. If it's launching a course or a podcast or writing or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then I feel as though if you keep having blocks get in the way, look at what's perhaps in your unconscious, work with someone perhaps to clear that. Or maybe it's just not the right direction and try something else, but just keep moving forward, fail fast, and keep moving, because the joy really is in the doing. The destination is great, but we really want to live in the present and be in our joy all the time.
Yeah. Well, when people get to the point where they're at a crossroads, where they're in a midlife transition, especially, they need guidance. I know I did, and I got very, very little of it. I became the guidance person. I became the mentor instead of having mentors. It's always been a tough spot in my life, is that I didn't have any mentors. And I had critics, but I didn't have mentors. So when playing off of what you just said, when people get to the point where I will tell them, or they'll tell themselves, "Boy, I really want to try that." Well, then do that. I said, "Yeah, but what if I fail?" And you know what I'm going to say. But what if you don't? What if you succeed? And you know, when you need an attorney, go to an attorney. When you need a doctor, you go to a doctor. When you need someone to help you with what you're doing in life and what you're supposed to be doing, what you were meant to do, born to do, Olivia, with the weird last name. Yeah, Olivia.
Well, and can I add that a lot of the people that I follow that are business trainers around these kinds of businesses, they all had failures in the beginning. So even if you fail, just keep going, because that's how you get better, right? So, yeah. Okay.
I mean, at my age, to be starting a bunch of things, it's pretty amazing. But I have my family thoroughly behind me. My wife of 45 years, she's, go for it, Rick. She's the supreme encourager, and she's full of wisdom. And sometimes I get a little upset because her wisdom, it kind of upsets my wisdom and shows me that her wisdom is better than my wisdom. Yeah. So anyway, well, anything more you want to add? This has been jam-packed. I hope that our viewers, our audience, all of you out there, have thoroughly enjoyed Miss Olivia and our tete-a-tete here. So any last words? Any closing remarks?
My closing remarks are usually what I said earlier, which is just really try to tap in and find your own guidance and your own intuition, and then trust it, keep honing and working with that. And then you'll start to get much more assurance about the direction to go to fulfill your destiny.
I'm gonna, because we do have a few minutes here, I'm gonna ask you this. How do you approach getting people to trust themselves? That's so huge. It's been so huge with me. Getting people to trust themselves. They don't trust other people. And why should they trust themselves, especially when it comes to decision making? What would you say to that?
if I were working with someone who really couldn't trust themselves at all, I would probably do a family history and really see if there's things in their unconscious that are really keeping them from trusting themselves. A lot of times when children are told that what they know to be true isn't true, they start to doubt themselves. So a lot of times it can just be early unconscious programming, and there's ways to work through that. And then I play with little techniques to help trust your intuition with making choices and then seeing if they end up being correct, by intuiting them or using kinesiology or muscle testing to make decisions. So that's a really fun way then to get better and better at trusting what's coming through. And also writing, there's a technique, the Artist's Way is a book where they talk about writing morning pages.
My son has read that like 5 times because
it's amazing.
He's a songwriter. So yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. So being a songwriter as well, like a lot of times stuff is just coming through right from your higher self.
Yep.
And so if you get up first thing in the morning, don't think, don't do anything, just have a pen and pad next to the bed and just start writing. You could just even start writing. Like I did this where I was really blocked and I just kept putting down, I am writing. I just kept writing that. And then all of a sudden stuff started coming and I didn't know where it was coming from. I mean, I do now, but it wasn't like I was thinking about it. It was just it's coming. And then I'd read it later. I go, oh, that's pretty good, And so it's a matter of just making it a habit. And then if you do that, then they say, write 3 pages every morning, like 3 full pages of whatever. It could even be gibberish, longhand. And then do it every day and just see what happens. It's a fun way to tap in, get past all the blocks.
Can you do 3 pages on your phone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the actual handwriting part of it is significant.
I do too.
It actually accesses a part of the brain that we don't get from typing. So that's why I like it.
Just don't ask millennials to use cursive.
Yeah, that's so sad because that's actually a brain training. Cursive is so I would encourage, actually, if people don't know how to learn cursive, train yourself to do cursive. It can be really fun and healing.
YouTube videos on cursive writing, not cursing, cursive writing. Yes.
Good distinction.
All righty. Any other nuggets, or have we picked your brain enough here today?
I think my brain's pretty well picked.
Okay. All right. Well, I do hope that people will take to heart the fact that you want to help them, and that you're extremely capable of helping them. And I know I'm going to be contacting you when I have questions and concerns. Just say, okay, Miss Statistic Love, how would you handle this? Yeah. It's good. It's good to have a partner in crime. All righty. Well, are you ready to sign off?
Yeah. So thank you again.
This has been Achieve Your Dream Summit with Olivia Parr Rudd. Rudd.
You got it.
It does not roll off my tongue. The Norwegian name. All righty. And anyway, remember that if you're watching this for the first time, that you can get the upgrade, and then you purchase the upgrade, and then you get all of the videos for life. That's pretty cool. So, all righty. Well, signing off. Smile pretty. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for coming back to Achieve Your Dream Summit. I got another great interview. You're going to love this guy. Look at that smile. Just look at that smile. Yeah, good stuff comes out of that mouth. His name is Eric K. Johnson. I'm going to read just a little bit about this guy so that you will be as intrigued as I am with what he's going to say. Here we go. There are many podcasts and coaches who teach you the technical side of podcasting. Eric K. Johnson is the premier coach focused on the art of podcasting with Podcast Talent Coach. He has been atop the radio rating since 2000 and coached many others to even greater success. Eric is a nationally recognized podcast and radio talent coach, on-air personality, and radio program director, seen on stage at Podcast Movement, New Media Expo, Authority and Influencer Summit, and more. Now, I'm going to turn this over to Eric by asking you, sir, the first question that I try to ask everybody, and that is, Eric K. Johnson, what were you born to do?
Rick, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Looking forward to our conversation today. What was I born to do? I think I was born to coach. And I know that sounds fairly generic, and it took me a long time to learn that because, like most of us, I was born an introvert. I didn't want to get up in front of everybody. But the more I learned, the more I realized that I could be behind the scenes helping people be on stage or be in front or succeed to their greatest ability and helping them do that. I don't need to be on stage to take all of those accolades. I love being behind the scenes and getting people to succeed. And I didn't really know that was the case. I actually started coaching in high school. I was coaching youth bowlers. I grew up bowling. I started bowling when I was 5, like probably even younger than that. I was so young when I started bowling that they didn't even have bowling shoes that fit me. And but I loved bowling. My dad would take me bowling, my brother and I. And when I was 12, I started bowling competitively. By the time I was a freshman in high school, my dad and I won a national doubles tournament and in Washington, D.C. We won at our house level. We won at the city level. We won at the district level. We won at the regional level. We won at the state level. We went to DC and ended up winning all of it there, and got me a scholarship to bowl at the University of Nebraska. Okay. And so in high school, after I'd won that tournament, I started coaching kids and teaching them how to bowl because I really loved to help people succeed. So I got into college and started getting my degree in architecture because I really loved to draw. What I didn't like about architecture school was I had to get up in front of everybody and present my designs to my peers. And that was not enjoyable for me at all. I hated speech class. I didn't like it in high school. I didn't like it in college. And so all of a sudden architecture starts going computerized, computer-aided drafting, and it really started losing the romance for what I had discovered. My brother at the time worked at a radio station and said, hey, we need some part-time help at the radio station. Are you interested? And I thought, well, yeah, I'm a broke college kid. I can use a few extra dollars. So I took the job running the board at the radio station. And I thought, this is pretty cool. Like, I don't have to be in front of anybody, but I can entertain everybody. There's very few jobs where you can sit in a room by yourself, talk to people that you can't see and hope that you're entertaining. But radio is one of those jobs. And so I finished my architecture degree and I stayed in radio and made a career out of it for 30 years. And a lot of people say radio and architecture, like, how do those even are related? But actually they're quite related. I am very right-brained and left-brained. I'm very creative and analytical at the same time. And to succeed at architecture, you have to be creative and analytical at the same time. You're given a set of parameters and you have to design within those parameters. On the radio, it's the same way. You have to be creative and analytical at the same time. You're given a set of parameters on the radio and you have to be creative within those parameters. And now as I moved into podcasting, it's the same thing. You have to be creative within that set of parameters. So my coaching started coming back around while I was programming radio stations. I started learning all I could. I read everything I could. I attended seminars. I attended conferences. I followed different radio coaches and consultants and learned all of their strategies. And I took all of them and I aggregated them into my process of coaching. And I was using that to coach on-air radio talent. And I've coached multiple #1 radio stations, and it's been a lot of fun. I've signed on radio stations, took them to #1. I've taken heritage radio stations to #1. My own show's been #1. So when I got into podcasting, I started falling in love with podcasting. And I thought, man, if the podcasters just knew a little bit of the tips and tricks we use in radio to create compelling content, their shows could be so much better, so much stronger. And so I started coaching podcasters, and some of my clients have been named one of the top podcasts on Apple Podcasts in all of Australia. He's from Australia, so he got on those charts. I've had others that have been recognized by national governmental organizations as key conduits for the content of those organizations. And it's just been phenomenal. And I get a really big sense of accomplishment when the podcasters I coach and the clients that I help achieve that kind of success. That really means a lot to me. And now I also coach high school hockey. I've coached lacrosse. I coach a college hockey team. I've coached baseball. I didn't even know how to play lacrosse. Never played lacrosse in my life. They said, we need a coach. You coach. Can you coach lacrosse? I said, sure, I'll figure it out. Like, let's do this.
Wow.
And so I became a lacrosse coach because I just love teaching people how to be the best version of themselves.
We have that in common. We definitely have that in common.
I love it. There's nothing like seeing one of your clients or your students succeed and knowing that you help them see what's possible.
Yeah. Now, my second question, and you have pretty much answered this, but if you want to throw in something extra, is how did you get there? You know, what were you born to do, and how did you get there?
How I got there was just stumbling my way through it. You know, I wanted to own a radio station, right? I love entrepreneurism. I really wanted to own my own business. And I've thought about everything. I've been an entrepreneur since I can remember. I was in 6th grade. I went to a white elephant sale and bought 2 cases of gum and sold it out of my locker at school. You know, it's like I bought the 2 cases of gum for like $5 and I'm selling them for 50 cents a pack out of my locker and making all kinds of money. Like, I just love entrepreneurism. So I wanted to own a radio station. And as soon as I got into radio, consolidation started happening and all of the big companies started eating up all of the radio stations, and all the mom and pop owners started going out of business. And I realized quickly that ownership of the radio station wasn't really going to be possible anymore. But I still had a message to share. I still wanted to help people. I still wanted to coach people and help them see success. And when I discovered podcasting and I realized that I don't need a radio station to share my message, here's the opportunity I have to go spread my message and share it and help as many people as I possibly can. There are so many podcasts and YouTube videos out there that will teach you how to launch a podcast. Launching your podcast isn't the difficult part. You can do that in about 30 days. You sit down and do the work. It's not that difficult. The problem is you get a podcast up and running and you go, okay, now what? Now what do I do with it? And then Rick, the studies show that a lot of podcasts go away around 7 or 8 episodes. They just stop publishing.
That's sad.
And when you dig into it, you realize that people didn't realize how hard it was going to be. They ran out of stuff to talk about because it wasn't really truly their passion. Their audience isn't growing as fast as they thought it would. They really don't have a strategy to go to the next level, because getting it launched, you have to do A, B, and C. Your podcast is launched. And then you go, okay, now what? Now what do I do? And that's where I come in. I said, if I can take people from the launch point to the success point, now we're growing an audience and we're monetizing our show and driving our business. That's what I want to do. So now all of a sudden I've paired my passion for entrepreneurism with my passion for radio and creativity. And I brought it together in podcasting, and I help people achieve their goals. And that's really kind of how it all came together. Now it sounds all succinct here. I tell you that in about, 90 seconds, but it's taken me, 3 decades in radio and the last 10 years in podcasting to get to that point. When I started coaching in podcasting, I just wanted to help all podcasters. If you got a podcast, I can help you. Like, let's do this.
Sure.
But the more I worked with podcasters, the more that I realized that the people that I can help the most with what I do are coaches and information experts, people who have a message to share. They have some information that they want to get out to the world, and they need people to understand who they are. They need to build their influence and their authority in their niche. And a podcast is a phenomenal way to do that. Those are the people that I help the most. Now, if you have a hobby podcast, that doesn't mean I can't help you too. A lot of my stuff helps hobbyists as well. But I mean, when I'm working with you one-on-one, or you're in one of my programs, we're trying to build a revenue engine for your podcast. A lot of people want to build an audience, and all of a sudden they want to, I want to get my audience big enough so I can sell some sponsors. And I said, why would you ever want to do that? Like, people are leaving traditional media in droves because they don't want to sit through all of those commercials. Like, they're leaving radio and going to podcasts to get away from the commercials. Why would you want to go clutter up your show with a whole bunch of commercials? People don't want that. Like, stop doing that. Instead, use your podcast to promote your business or your affiliates or whatever it is that your revenue engine that we build. Promote that. Don't go sell it $50 a holler to some sponsor. Like, there's a limit to the number of commercials you could put on your show. People don't want commercials to begin with, and it's turning your show into a commodity. But it took me a long time to learn that. Like, it took me 10 years to develop that process to get where I am now. So what I try and do is I try and help podcasters shortcut and not have to go through all of that pain and agony I went through trying to develop the thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have answered my next question. How does your business?
I'm always a step ahead of you, Rick. What
you really are. You really are. Yeah. I mean, I can't get lacrosse coaching out of my head right now.
Yeah. So while I'm coaching lacrosse, right, the referee would make some hand signal, right? And so when the whistle would blow, I go out on the field and I go, hey ref, what does that mean? When you do this, what does that mean? Or when you're doing that, what does that mean? And he's like, oh, and he's explaining the rules to me as I'm going. He's thinking, this guy's coaching the team. What's going on here? Oh, that was a learning process, but it was a lot of fun. And we finished second in the state. So how great is that? First time I ever coached a team, we finished second in the state. It was awesome.
Unreal. You know, we need to preserve you somehow. And then like 30, 40 years from now, just bring you back and clone you.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
You can go off and do all of these things for all these people.
So many other things I'd love to coach. That'd be awesome. So how does my business, what was the question with regard?
How does your business fit into your dream? You have given us a lot on that already.
Yes. Yeah. So, I love to be involved. Well, as you can tell by my background, I love to be involved in various things. Like, if I'm just doing one thing, I'm getting bored quickly. So that's why I coach 2 hockey teams. My son plays for a third that I follow. I'm a public address announcer for a 4th team. I coach podcasters. I'm on the radio. Like, I love doing a million things. And so my business, I try and create a variety of things because I'm a big believer that one size does not necessarily fit all. And so I have a variety of ways I coach people. First and foremost is my podcast. So I create my podcast each and every week. It's at podcasttalentcoach.com. And a lot of people think an interview podcast is the only sort of podcast you do. My podcast tends to mostly be just me talking to you because I like to talk. And so it's me teaching you some aspect of podcasting. I have 365 episodes published, and I would say 340 of them at least are just me. I didn't have anybody else except me on my podcast until episode 200, when I brought some friends on to kind of ask them some questions about podcasting. And then I didn't really start doing interviews until about 280. And now I just do an interview every now and then. It's not even a regular thing. It's mostly just me sharing my information and coaching you to be a better podcaster, whether that's a better interviewer or a better storyteller, or how do we grow your audience, or how do we make money with the show, or how do we build a show clock, and all of the variety of things that come with it. So I love teaching there, but what that lacks is that one-on-one connection that I have, sitting toe to toe with somebody and really diving deep into their podcast and figuring out how we can help them reach their goals. So I have a one-on-one coaching program where I dive deep into your podcast and we define some goals, and then I help you reach those goals. But now what I realized with that end of the spectrum is that I only have so many hours in a day. So I can only handle so many one-on-one clients, and my podcast itself isn't diving deep on your show. So I've created some opportunities in the middle for some group coaching programs. I do a monthly podcast profits boot camp where I just get a group of people together for an entire day. And I teach them how to monetize their show or grow their audience or whatever the topic is for that month. It's a fantastic way to just get in and get some work done. It's not a webinar, it's a boot camp. Like, we're actually rolling up our sleeves and we're walking through the process through the entire day. And I have some group coaching programs and things like that where I love helping people. And I know a lot of people love a group setting and a lot of people love one-on-one setting. So I don't want to use a one size fits all and try and shove people into a square hole if they're a round peg.
Yeah, that's so smart. Wow. I'm just on overload right now that you have actually done all of these things and are doing all of these things. So,
and I'm always trying something new, like the boot camps thing. I just started at the tail end of 2021, right around Thanksgiving. I launched my first boot camp, and really, leading up to it, you're thinking, man, it's a full day. This is going to be exhausting. But once you get in there and the electricity that comes from all of the other people in the group and sharing ideas, I really feed off of that. And it's been phenomenal doing that. I just love being around. If I'm sitting on the couch watching TV doing nothing, I feel like there's impact going to waste. Like, I could be helping somebody. I could be doing something. I could be having a conversation with somebody right now, helping them reach their goals.
Yeah, you really are a teacher. You really are.
I love it.
But
love it.
The thing that separates you from a lot of teachers is that you offer leadership in that teaching. That boot camp is you're the leader. I mean, people are going to be sitting there or dancing around the room when you've got your boot camp going, because they're really learning stuff. Because I haven't heard any fluff today.
Well, Rick, there's a big difference. What a lot of people don't understand is there is a big difference between a coach and a consultant. Like, a consultant comes in and tells you, here's what you need to do, ABC. Like, you follow my plan. You have to fit into, this is what I do. Right. Yeah. It's I come in and I look at your situation, and then I put my plan on your situation and you follow my plan. Mm-hmm. Where a coach comes in and looks at your strengths and your weaknesses and then figures out how to play to your strengths. Like, if you think of a coach of a baseball team, right? Mm-hmm. He's probably got 7, 8, 10 pitchers, and they all have a little something different, right? Yes. So I'm going to use this guy as my starter. I'm going to use this guy as my relief guy. I'm going to use that guy as my closer, because they all have different strengths, right? This guy can throw 100 miles an hour, but he's only good for about 6 batters. So I need to use him as my closer. But this guy here can go a long way. He doesn't quite have the arm strength, but he's got the endurance, and he can give me 5 or 6 innings. So I'm going to use him to start, right? That's what a coach does. It comes in and he looks at your strengths and where you really succeed. Now let's play up to that. And that's what I do as a podcast coach. I listen to your show and I say, okay, here's what we're doing really well. Here's what needs some work. Let's do more of the stuff you're doing well, so it kind of takes over the stuff that needs work.
I can see and hear you looking for those spots where somebody can really improve, blind spots, or in my case of 35 years of counseling and coaching, it's people don't look at their strength as being a strength. They think, oh, well, that's easy.
Everybody knows that.
I can throw a split finger fastball. Sure. Yeah. It's at 98 miles per hour. No big deal. Yes, it is a big deal. Yeah.
Because you forget what you didn't know before you learn that thing. And so
Yes.
now that you've learned it, you suffer from the curse of knowledge and you think everybody knows it. And
Mhm.
you have to, I can't tell you how many times on a coaching call, people say, oh, I never thought of that. That never occurred to me.
Yes.
And
Yes.
because I help them find the things that might be in their blind spot, or they never, when I talk to people, one of the big things I help people with is talk to one single person on your podcast. Have a conversation with an individual, because everybody says, hey, everybody, welcome to the show. I appreciate all of you being here. You guys need to go over to my website. I'm like, you guys, who are you talking to? Somebody's listening to your show with earbuds, right? You're having a one-on-one conversation with that person. If you want them to take action and go to your website or download your lead magnet or whatever, you need to talk to that single individual. You need to say, hey, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here. You know what? If you really want help growing your podcast, you need to go grab my resource over at my website. I think it's going to help you tremendously as you record your show this week. Talk to one person rather than talking to everybody, because everybody, it's like, I'm here by myself. Who are you talking to? And you don't make that connection. And when I tell people that, they go, oh yeah, I never thought of it that way.
Wow. Speaking of resources, segue. I know that you have some gifts for our viewers. I know that you got a really good freebie.
Yes.
And if I recall, you also have an upgrade for our people who do the VIP upgrade and can then access your training anytime they want to.
Yes. So for the freebie, if you don't yet have a podcast, this is perfect for you. It's my podcast launch mini course. It'll teach you how to launch your podcast in 30 days. And it's really not that difficult. It's a checklist. You just walk through the checklist, and I've accompanied with it a video. So many times you get a free checklist and you look at it and you go, what does he mean by that? So I put a video with it that walks you through it. So it's a little mini course for you. It's a $97 mini course. You get it for free. And you can get that at podcasttalentcoach.com/launch. You go there.
We'll have that up on your.
That's perfect. It's super easy to get. That'll help you launch your podcast. You just follow it. It's color by number, and it's super easy to get your show up and running in 30 days. So if you don't have a podcast, they're perfect for you. Let's say you have a podcast, but you can't figure out how to drive your business with it. Or maybe you haven't figured out what that revenue engine is, or you have a podcast, but the audience isn't growing. Then my podcast profits bootcamp for you is perfect. I do it each month. And that would be perfect for you to get in, because we deep dive. This isn't a webinar. Okay. You're not going to go there for an hour and get a whole bunch of fluff and then, get a pitch, and it's like, well, you promised me, but you didn't teach me anything. That's not what the boot camp is. The boot camp is a 7-hour full day deep dive into building a strategy. And I build the strategy with you. We're working together. We're collaborating together. We're sharing our ideas. I'm giving you time to work. I'm evaluating what you create. It's a $997 all day event. But because you're here with Rick today, you can get in for just $97.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. $97. But you got to use a promo code and you got to be VIP. All right. So that's the little hook there. Not everybody's getting in. You got to go VIP here today. And when you do, you'll get the coupon code, and you'll have to, because if you just go over to the bootcamp page, if you go to podcasttalentcoach.com/bootcamp, you'll see it's $997. Like, you're going to go, wait a minute, Eric just told me it was 97. What's the deal? Because you didn't get the VIP coupon code that's over on the VIP page. Okay. So go VIP, take that coupon code, head over to podcasttalentcoach.com/bootcamp, and you'll save a ton of money.
Since you're my new best friend, can I get in on that too?
Absolutely, you can.
Okay, well,
yes, it's and we have a lot of fun.
I will be showing up. Smiling,
it's such a great time to. So if you have a podcast, the boot camp's perfect for you. If you don't have a podcast, get the launch. Let's get your show up and running, and then get you over into a boot camp.
Well, I don't have a podcast yet, but I've been told I should. So
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
now when
All
I
the
go
cool
through,
kids are
when I
doing
go
it.
through your boot camp and all that, will I learn how to throw a fastball? Will I learn how to
We're
bowl
not
a
teaching
strike?
that today.
Will
I
I learn
can
how to
probably
get-
teach you that.
I get a puck by the goalie. Will I learn
yeah.
all of that stuff?
I can kind of teach you how to catch a ball in a lacrosse, a cross. So it's not called a stick; it's called a cross when you play lacrosse, because that's what
Okay.
lacrosse means. And those balls hurt when they hit you. I found that out. I took one in the rib cage. That's not fun.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Those hurt more than a puck does.
Yeah. So when you pick that up, you have your cross to bear.
Yeah.
I just had to. I couldn't.
Had to.
It's
No,
a dad joke,
I
you
set
know.
you up. All right.
You-
There it
you
is.
did,
There it
you
is.
did. All righty. Well,
Absolutely.
let me you are so doggone informative. I do want you to expand on this a little bit. This is one of my favorites because my whole deal with Achieve Your Dream and this summit is to help people get to where they need to go, be who they need to be, and especially do what they were born to do and to have an action plan to make that happen. But it's all about fixing things. When people ask me, what do you do, Rick? I fix people. And it sounds like you do too. It's like, well, I can teach you how to do that. And then you become a coach.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You're an amazing person. But what I'd like to ask you right now is, when it comes to living your best life, what advice do you have for our viewers, for our audience? Eric K. Johnson, when it comes to living your best life, what's your advice?
My advice is simple, and that is have fun. If you're not having fun doing it, there's no sense in doing it. And I've believed that since the day I started working. So many people I would work with would be, maybe they're scared of losing their job, or maybe they're working a job they don't enjoy. And I would ask them, why are you here? Like, why don't you go somewhere that you enjoy? Why do you continue to come back here day after day and do your job if you hate it? Go find something you love to do. Life is too short. Find the work that you love, be around people that you love, have fun. Everything. I love to coach. I have a lot of fun coaching. I love coaching hockey. I love coaching podcasters. I love coaching broadcasters. I have fun doing it. But I got to tell you, Rick, the day that I stop having fun is the day I stop doing it and I go find something else to do. I stopped following my dream to become an architect because it wasn't fun anymore. And I went to get into radio. And when the day-to-day radio became less fun, I went to start coaching podcasters. I do it because I have fun. Every episode of my podcast ends with 3 words of encouragement for my audience. I tell them, always tell the truth, always make it matter, and always have fun. Because if we're not doing those 3 things, we're doing our listeners a disservice and we're doing ourselves a disservice. You got to have fun. Everything you do.
Have fun and make it matter.
Make it matter. Right. Because if it doesn't matter, if you're not making your audience care, they're not coming back.
Yeah.
And if you're not telling the truth, you're doing your audience a disservice. But if you're not having fun, what's the point? A lot of people say, should I start a podcast? And I say, it depends. I'm a huge proponent of podcasts. I love podcasting. Do I think everybody needs a podcast? Absolutely not. Because if it's not something you love, you're going to hate it. You're going to hate having to go in every week to record your show or batch your show. You're going to hate having to set up the interviews if that's what you're doing. You're going to hate getting in front of the microphone. And that's no way to live. Go do some. People say, should I be on Facebook? Should I be doing Facebook Live? Should I be doing YouTube? And I go, it depends. Like if you don't like being on social media, don't be on social media.
Yeah.
Do what you love to do. Have fun doing it. Now, all of life can't be roses, right? We can't have, the lawn has to be mowed, right? So somebody's got to mow it. If it snows, the driveway's got to get shoveled, right? Maybe I don't love shoveling, but it's got to get done. Yeah. But it's not a job that I'm going to every single day and I'm not loving it. If you don't love your job, find something new. And people say, well, I love hockey, right? How can I ever make a living? I can't make a living playing hockey. No, but you can make a living coaching hockey. You can make a living talking about hockey. You could create a podcast about hockey. You can create a course about hockey. You could create a hockey membership. You could open a hockey store and sell equipment. You could be a general manager of an ice rink. You could, you could go be a referee. You could go be a trainer. There's a million things you could do. But find something that you love and that you have fun doing. Because if it's not fun, it's not worth doing.
Well, I'm going to put in a shameless plug here that what you're doing is you're talking to people who need to figure out what they were born to do and not think that just because they're 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, that they can't do that. They've been spending their life getting a good job that has good benefits so that they can cover their health insurance and all of that stuff, and they're miserable. And those are the people that I've worked with. But it sometimes, you know this, Eric, it's pulling teeth to get people to understand that there's more. And pulling that, all the things you just suggested about hockey, that's brilliant. That's amazing. People need to listen to that. And I just know from 35 years of experience that people don't buy it. They think, well, that sounds good. And then a closer I use is, does that make sense to you? Most of the time, no.
Right.
I can't see that.
Well, few things feel worse than climbing that corporate ladder for years and years and years, only to realize that your ladder was leaning against the wrong wall.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've I've come up so many rungs. I've invested so much time. It's been, I can't change now. And I always say, well, if you don't change now, when? You still have plenty of years ahead of you. Why do you want to continue to go through this pain and agony of doing the same thing that you don't enjoy when you can just go invest the time now? Imagine where you could be 5 years from now if you just go do what you love starting today. I don't care if you're 29 or 69. Let's do it.
I'm at the upper end there.
Yeah, I'm a little closer to 69 as well myself. But there's plenty of time left to go find something you enjoy. Let's do it.
Wow. That is so good. Okay, guys. The freebie stuff gonna help you. But I'm telling you, the freebie is gonna get you all excited. You're gonna salivate, you're gonna lose sleep, you're gonna wake up in the middle of the night going, I wonder if I could do that. Could I really do that? I need to contact this guy. And that's what you need to do. That's why you need the VIP upgrade so that $97. You really said that, didn't you? Did you mean to say
absolutely.
that? $97 for a $997 course? Okay.
Look, and Rick, I don't just say this for your particular summit. When I started attending summits, I always was a little skeptical about VIP. And somebody told me, look, you always go VIP. And I was like, sure. Easy for you to say. And then I realized you always go VIP. There's so much behind the curtain when you go VIP that you don't realize that now every time I'm at a summit, it's VIP, just to see what's back there, because there's always one or two that you're like, holy crud, I get that. And it totally makes up for the few dollars that you spend to go VIP. It only makes sense.
I agree. Well, I don't want this to end, and there are people who are watching who don't want this to end. But you know what? We're running a little short here on time, so let's freeze that $1 million smile of yours and say sayonara for right now. Watch the couple of things, do the VIP upgrade, and watch some more videos. Have a good time. Got lots of great guests on the Achieve Your Dream Summit. So for now, thank you, Eric. Thank you all for watching, and have a great rest of the day. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Achieve Your Dream Summit. Got a very special young lady for you today. You're going to get a big kick out of her. She knows what she's talking about. You look at that baby face and you think, how can she possibly be old enough to know what she's talking about? But I'll tell you, in the short time I've known her, she knows. And you're going to get in on what's in her head and in her heart. So I'm going to read you a little bit about her bio. It says here, Susie Vine's programs help high achievers discover how happiness paves the way to greater success by flipping the script on stress. Ooh, I like that. She helps her clients discover how they can unlock optimal focus and greater success by making space for what lights them up, more fun, creativity, and play. Oh my goodness, this is going to be a good one. Okay, so for those of you who have already seen some of my interviews, you'll know that I ask these questions of every person that I interview. So I'm going to ask this first one of Susie, then I'm going to turn her loose. The number one, since our theme for this summit is achieve your dream, let's start with this all-important question. Susie Vine, what were you born to do? Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's a big question. And I know you know that because you've spent a lot of time helping people get to the root of that. And I have spent a minute or two. And I've spent some time really digging in on that myself. I was not one who knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. And as I already told you, I worked in technical theater, and that gave me the chance to move around the country, to help other people realize their dreams and visions, to work with phenomenal talents. And I've changed career about 4 different times. So what I now know I was born to do is to help people connect the dots, to help people find, we need that, right?
Yeah.
There's some abstract stuff we've got to pull together. This is not a simple path.
It's not.
And to bring a little light and a little levity to it. And that's something that, a lot of times we only understand our path in retrospect. Something that I started doing as a very young child and didn't realize the kind of skill that I was cultivating. But everywhere I went, that kind of became my trademark, that I would, bring up the spirits in the room. I would be the first one to laugh. I would get people in a more positive perspective, because everything changes when you shift your point of view. And when you're looking for trouble, you're going to find it. So when you're looking for some more positive perspectives, it really opens things up. And so that is really important to what I'm doing now. As I look around, even these last couple of years notwithstanding, before that, and from my own personal story, my mother was a nurse. She worked night shifts for 40 years, delivering babies. So when it comes to stress, I know what it looks like. And I know how it impacts the person, it impacts the people around them. And as I have moved through my own career and different facets, doing a lot of different things, I've seen how people respond to it. And we can get more into that, a little bit further down the conversation, but perspective is absolutely everything. And when we recognize that we have the power to change our perspective and the power to change the outcome, then we can start writing our own story, and we're not the victim to what is being served up. And I think that a lot of people feel very disempowered and are looking for solutions out there. And I'm really passionate about helping people recognize that we've got this story within ourselves. We just need to turn down the volume on all of that influence and give ourselves the chance to get clear on that.
That is eloquently put. Yeah, I'm a little more down to earth. Like, are you doing a job that you hate? Do you need change in your life, or are you living in a sea of regret? But what you just said is elegant, just elegant and eloquent. So go on. You have my interest.
Well, I was in a job where I would wake up on Monday and I would wish it was Friday. And then I realized I was wishing away 5 days of the week, and we can't live for the weekends. That's not a sustainable model. And so many people think that's fine. That's normalized. We're just going to power through. We're going to aim for that success that we've been told is what success looks like. Rarely have we even given ourselves a chance to think, do we want that picture that we've aimed ourselves for? And, when we get there, we'll give ourselves permission to be happy. When we get there, we'll fix the relationships that have gotten a little tarnished along the way, if they haven't dissolved completely. When we get to success, then we'll be worthy of being happy. And it's heartbreaking to me. I mean, how many of us know stories of people, I know so many people. I'm proud Generation X banner bearer, and I know that we don't want to go quietly into that model. How many people see their parents work endless hours, working through vacations, missing the ball games. And then when they approach their retirement, they're excited about spending time with their grandkids. Some health condition comes up and separates them from that opportunity when they finally got to their finish line. Right. And so like I said, I've done a lot of different work. The career I was in before I struck out on my own and finally gave up and became an entrepreneur instead of doing great work for other people, I worked with a company that was in senior move management. And so I took that theater magic ability that I had, and I helped our clients get ready to move out of their home. They might have been in it for 40 or 50 years into a smaller retirement community. Here in the San Diego area, it's more like resort living, but they'd have to downsize and give up a lot of what they had accumulated over the years. You just can't take it all with you, which is a great show. And I was sitting there helping them through this process, trying to raise their spirits, trying to help them see the bright side, how much opportunity they're going to have, social engagement. They're not going to be holed up home alone, isolated anymore. And all they could see was what they had to give up. And all they could see as the cause of that is because maybe their kids or their doctor said that they couldn't be independent anymore. They weren't healthy enough to stay at home. And so my eyes opened when I recognized myself and my peers aren't going to want to write that same story for ourselves. We're not going to want to be told what to do any more than our parents or grandparents are. Stress is the common denominator, and how we show up to stress and how we show up in making our own choices in life and whether we feel empowered or relegated to just respond has everything to do with the outcome. And if we work upstream and we start making small changes right now when it's easier before it's really broken and we really have to find a way to fix it, then we can have a completely different outcome downstream. And because stress is the common denominator, that was the first place where I landed with my message. When I became passionate and I said, we have to recognize how much power we're giving away and how we can shift things. So initially, 3X Less Stress was about turning down the volume on stress, emotional, physical, and environmental, 3 aspects of stress.
Phew.
And then, thank you. I found some people in the field of positive psychology, and they blew my mind open because perspective is everything. And it's not, our mission is not to live without stress. That's impossible and will bring us stress in and of itself, but how we approach it, how we see it, and how we choose to use it to our advantage has everything to do with it. So that falls into this whole mission I am on to help people feel empowered and write their own stories.
That's a lot. That's a mouthful, I'll tell you. Brilliant stuff. Now, the second question, and you've answered a lot of this, but there might be some more things, and that is, how did you get there? How did you get to where you knew what you were born to do?
It really was, a lot of people have a single light bulb moment. I think that when I was in that position of working with my clients and recognizing that while I could help them in their immediate situation, I could help them have an easier move. How many other people, it certainly would be job security to sit back and wait for everybody else to run headlong into that problem. Great business to get into, right? Senior service industry. We're taking care of the silver tsunami, as we like to call it right now. That's what the boomers are leading up to. Because there's a lot of people who are redefining what it looks like to age. But what if we can redefine what that whole thing looks like? And so that was really the point at which I got clear I needed to do something different. And so with my mom being a nurse, I had already studied some more energetic modalities. I'm a Reiki practitioner. And so I embraced the woo. But I also know that we really need to be grounded and work from science. And a lot of people want to understand the how and the why. And you can't always say, because we're all connected, even if we are. We need better answers than that. So I studied holistic health. I did some work in body work, massage therapy, and started working with clients that way as I built my coaching practice. But that light bulb moment really has been about moving my message forward. And so beyond working with people one-on-one, I recognize that this kind of message, it needs to be more available. In Southern California, it's easy to see, information about healthy eating, moving your body. We must be like the triathlete capital of the US. There's so many athletes in this area. But where I'm from in central Illinois, this isn't dinner table conversation. And the fact that we have to go out and educate ourselves on what healthy eating actually is beyond what the gurus say, is it keto or is it paleo or is it vegan? What are we supposed to do this month? It's so confusing and overwhelming. I really think that's why people just stay where they are and really do feel like, well, I feel okay. I'd like to feel better, but it's not broken. So how do I know where to begin? Who do I trust? How do I fix it? And so that's one thing that really inspired me. I found myself starting a podcast during these last 2 years. That was my COVID baby. No new pets, no new kids around the house, but I started a podcast, and it's really given me an opportunity to help people bring their messages out, because just because we don't know where to begin isn't a good reason to not look for a place to get started.
Well, I'm going to have to become a member or subscribe to your podcast, because you explain things extremely well. You're very eloquent, and I love the fact that this girl has a vocabulary. Have you noticed that? Isn't that nice nowadays? Isn't it just enlightening that somebody has a vocabulary? I appreciate it. Well, let me ask the third question. We're moving right along here. How does your business fit into your dream? You've already given us some hints on that, but expand some more. I'm mesmerized.
I will keep sharing. So my podcast is called Happified, and it lets me meet terrific people and bring them on the show. I see an episode in your future. We'll iron out the details on that in the short term. So I have the podcast coming out. It really allows me that flexibility, and that's really something that, coming from working for other people, working that 9-to-5 model for so long, has been a luxury to be able to expand into. And, I think that so many of us have this dream of working flexible hours, of being able to work from wherever. And ultimately, that's a goal of mine. Right now, I'm a home-based business, but that lets me connect with clients here or long distance, thanks to Zoom, and really start to build community. I think that's something else that's really been missing, is we tend to feel so isolated. Again, even before these last 2 years, feeling isolated, depression and anxiety have been on the rise for a long time, and now just exacerbated, really. So to look for ways, and now as technology is coming along, and beyond Facebook, of course, that's one place where I am, but to connect in community with other people who are looking for the same answers, to cheer each other on, is something that I'm really passionate about building. And so along with that, bringing the message out, or making information more easily available, synthesizing this information so people can say, yes, that's relevant to me. Yes, this sounds like a good place to start. And then helping, keep that energy going through momentum and community is something I'm really passionate about. So it's still evolving. I took some time over this holiday break to get some clarity, because I'm sure, as an entrepreneur, all of these ideas come through and we try to jump on everything at the same time. So putting things into an order is important too. But this year I'm really focusing on just sharing what I've been able to pull together from so many different guests. I'm up to 75 episodes on the podcast. I just hosted a summit myself and had a terrific time with that. So, a lot of these things come back to some really foundational themes that, if we make it more tangible and understandable, and if we help support people in recognizing that it doesn't have to be a complete lifestyle shift in order to be worthwhile, we can just make a tiny change and build on that. And so that's what I want to do. Create that toolkit so people can start to pick and choose, see what works for them, put aside what doesn't until maybe later, and really start to see results so we can feel more confident and empowered in our ability to create change.
Wow. My longtime friend, Dave Ramsey, who endorses my course, his whole thing is about baby steps and eating one bite at a time. But that's how he has gotten literally thousands and thousands and thousands of people out of debt, is by teaching them how to take those baby steps. And you're teaching people how to, I almost said stress-free, but that's an oxymoron right there. That doesn't work. But to minimize that stress. And yes, and if you can hear one of my rescue dogs barking, well, we're just going to have to put up with that for a minute or two. So, all right. Let's see here. Okay. Why did you choose your particular title for this summit? And will you share
Yes.
that with us?
Yes. The topic is, are you the boss, or is stress undermining your success? And, a lot of times, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of times we might be working towards this picture of success
Yes.
that isn't necessarily even ours, that comes from what our parents, teachers, society have painted as this picture of, what we're all aiming for. And
TV movies, everything, the celebrity thing, all of that. Yeah. And it's a sham.
Oh, yeah. And if you've driven the 5 here in Southern California, you see all the luxury cars. I love the story. A client told me her mother-in-law was visiting from Ohio and looking at all of the Lamborghini and the Maserati and the Rolls. These cars must be cheaper out here.
That's good. That is good. That is good.
No, we've just all been kind of desensitized to this. We're supposed to be aiming for something, right? Some tangible expression of success. And I think along that path, we lose track of what's really the core of it, what's going to help us feel good along the way and how we get there. So I like I said, and you noticed, in flipping the script on stress, there are some things we take for granted that we can just throw out. We can turn it around, and just by that awareness and changing our perspective, that's half the battle. I mean, as through your work with your clients, the subconscious mind, our habits and patterns can really hold us back. But changing our awareness is the first step. And then it's easier to change those habits and patterns because we've got reason to, because we can see ourselves being a different person, because we have a different deck of cards to be playing with.
Yes. And I will stress, having done similar work for the last 35 years and counseling hundreds of people. Now it's called coaching. I like that better. But we get in our heads that this is the way that life is going to be. And I really can't get around that. And a lot of times they can't on their own. That's why they came to me. That's why working at the mega church of over 11,000 people, all the rest of the pastoral staff sent all of their tough cases to me. Oh, I'm going to commit suicide. Oh, I'm going to kill my wife. Oh, I'm going to beat up my dad. All of these to me for 35 years. And it was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? But boy, did I learn. And people need to, before they get to that stage, they need to come to you and get de-stressed. It would help people so much to think that we can just read a book or 2 or 3 and become de-stressed, unstressed. I don't even know if that's a word, but get rid of at least some of the stress in our lives that can be just killing us. We need to come talk to Susie, and more importantly, listen to Susie, comprehend what Susie is saying, and then not to get so down on ourselves that we say, oh, well, I could never do that. I could never accomplish that. When you say fun, with the excitement back into and all of this stuff, I believe you. And you're probably going to be hearing from me possibly more than you even want to, but I've gotten some good pointers here, and I want to follow up on some things. I've taken some copious notes, young lady. And anyway, okay, going on, we are doing so fine time-wise. I know that you have a gift. You have a gift for our viewers. And this is the free gift, not the one where they upgrade to VIP status, but this is the free gift. Would you tell us about it, please?
Absolutely. So what I have to share for everyone who's participating in this summit, first of all, kudos for expanding your horizon for what you think is possible, because I know that there's going to be some great ideas coming up. And then what, right? Then where do we go from there? The gift that I have to share with you is a little mini masterclass called The Truth Behind the Top 5 Success Myths. Because like I said, when we have different information, when we understand that what we believe to be true is not true, then we have permission to explore a totally different way of being. And so we'll dig into some of those primary myths that I see ourselves, that I know I ran headlong into and tried to work through. And instead we can just step around those. We can put those down and have a new way of operating. And so short video and a PDF guide. So whether you're a visual learner or you like to work through the page or maybe have some writing prompts and explore that, that'll be available. So that's free for everyone. And then for VIPs, you'll be able to join me in my Reset Stress for Success. That's a program that is a little bit longer, but we get to dive into more of the principles of how our model or our picture of stress might be leading us astray. So when it comes to, is how stress could be undermining our success, right? We tend to kind of look at it three different ways, or who's in charge. When you're stressed out on Monday, we've all just come back to the work after the holiday session. And so people are having trouble coming back online after this holiday break. We really needed to unplug, I think, right? And so now we're back in the Monday to Friday grind, and we get to look around and say, am I responding to stress? Is it the deadlines, the email inbox, the to-do list that doesn't get any shorter? Am I responding to the social expectations, what success looks like? Or am I really understanding what resonates with me, what works with me, what's my best working style, and how I can integrate that with who I am being at work so that when I get to that success, it feels authentic, right? And one of the things about whether stress is driving it, this was one of my light bulb moments. When I found this research, it just cracked open my perception of, like I said, I used to think it was just turn down the volume on stress, learn to manage our time, fix our sleep schedule, move our bodies. All of those things are helpful, but we can see stress fundamentally. They've discovered people tend to see stress as debilitating or enhancing. Just kind of innately, we fall into two camps. And so some people see, we know those adrenaline junkies, right? Those free climbers that scale mountain faces. Yeah, what's next? And there are those people in the office too that thrive on those tight deadlines and the short budget, and they come out on top. And what's next? And then some of us, maybe most, tend to feel like stress, those deadlines, those restrictions and expectations are a threat, are a challenge that actually overwhelms us. And that's the perception of stress that actually leads to the physical impact. For years, we've been hearing that stress causes cardiovascular disease. Now we can see a direct correlation between stress and type 1 diabetes because that cortisol activity starts to cause insulin resistance. There's another light bulb moment. Why aren't we talking about this, right? It goes beyond changing our eating habits. And that's where I love connecting the dots, because when we start to see, oh, my doctor might not be telling me if I change my stress level, I can change my health, but I can also feel more resilient and more energized and likely to get out and exercise. Double win. So Harvard did a research and a study and looked at some of their students and showed them 2 videos explaining the physical impacts of stress. And we all get it. If we've stood up in front of a crowd and that is not our jam, you might not have been held back by this, but a lot of people, their stomach gets fluttery, their heart's racing, their mouth goes dry, their hearing might get muffled. And so it's all biological response. We have survived to this point because we are wired to respond to stress. I've heard people say, and I love this analogy, bad experiences are like Velcro and good experiences are like Teflon. That's because that's how we survive to thrive. So those same responses, if we think, oh, our heart is pounding, our palms are sweating, I can't catch my breath, I'm not prepared to speak, all of that sets us up for even more physical impact. We get that constriction in our blood vessels and everything else. If we reframe that and say, my heart is pounding, but it's giving me energy and sending more blood and oxygen to my brain so I can think more clearly. My focus is narrowed, but I'm more able to quickly respond to what's coming up in front of me.
Okay.
If we think about that, my hands are sweaty, but that's because my circulation shifted. And if I was in a biological situation, had to run from that tiger, I've got the energy to do it. When we realize that we can be empowered by stress, that physical impact, that cardiovascular risk goes away. immediately. And it actually, in their tests, reads more it as our physical state of joy and courage.
Mhm.
So that shift in perspective can be enough to start turning the tables in how we respond to stress at work. And in all things moderation, we don't want to move to the other end where we're adrenaline junkies and we're setting ourselves up to be in that stress response because we think, oh, that's the focus that serves us. But that's just one of the ways in which we can start to take back power and recognize that we're not subject to the things that stress us out.
Wow. Oh, yes. Can you see the steam coming out of my ears? My goodness. Well, it's so encouraging to me to listen to you. And I'm old enough to be your dad, and I'm just feeling very daddish right now, and just proud that you believe what you're saying. And you know what you're saying, and you believe what you're saying. And here's the crux of the whole situation, is that you are able to pass on this knowledge, this deep experience and knowledge to other people, to free them up, to embolden them. Isn't that a great word? Embolden. I love that word. And to make, very simplistically, make their lives better. And wow, I am so impressed, and we got plenty of time here. Let me ask you the question that I really like to ask at the end, and then you can talk about whatever you want to. Okay, you can talk about San Diego, you can talk about whatever you want to. But when it comes to living your best life, what advice do you have for our viewers, for our audience? Your best life.
Ooh, okay, that's great. I'm glad I saved a little time because this could be a couple of different tips. As you were sharing a little introduction about me, you shared that I put a priority on play and creativity. I try not to geek out too much into the research that I've collected, but when we are in a positive state of mind, when we're in a positive mood, our perspective, right? When we're stressed out, it's narrow. When we're positive, we're much more broad and open. So this broaden and build kind of frame of mind, which we can help to create or foster when we indulge in creativity, when we get curious and we're in that playful frame of mind. That gives us access to a whole lot more opportunity, creative problem solving, connection, and community, because we're open to ideas from other people, which helps them feel heard and that we can feel heard. That's that beautiful circle that goes round. So the power of play is something that I think we really have to come back to. It's not immature. The person who, appropriately is comical in the office or what have you at the workplace, the person who's lifting the mood actually is bringing great benefit. And they've actually been able to quantify the benefits of people who rate themselves as positive over people who are negative or neutral, right? We're better at sales. We're more commonly promoted. And that's not just because more likable, but because people who are positive, like I was just saying, are more open to solutions. And so they're able to improve themselves better. And so when we give ourselves that space to play, it gives us not only more happy opportunities, but benefits in the workplace. So it's a real win-win. And another benefit of it is, as I've gotten older and I've heard other people say, time just speeds up, right? We think we've got all the time in the world when we're young, but when we get, it's just zip, 2022, how did we get here? These moments of awe and wonder help us to stretch time. And when we're younger, we have more of these. We have more of these novel experiences. It's the first time we've been to this place or done this activity or had this experience. And those are like bookmarks that help our mind, right? Kind of the book of memory kind of is longer because we've got more of those bookmarks. As we get older and we do less of that new and different and novel experience, time just flies right by. So if through creativity and play and exploration, we can bring that back into our lives, we can bring back some of those opportunities to create new memories, to bring more joy into our lives, but also to kind of slow down that monotony, that grind that picks up when we are operating from stress and just trying to power through.
Deep,
So that's
deep,
one.
brilliant. Hey, go ahead and geek out. I'm enjoying the geekiness. Actually, you're not geeky at all. Which okay, for all you folks, that is not geeky. Okay, that is, do not pin that title on this marvelous young lady. So, is there more?
So another tip that I have is, you know, when we are stressed out, we tend to withdraw and isolate. Maybe we think we don't want to bring other people down. We're not very good company. Nobody wants to hear our story, and we tend to isolate. But in fact, coming together in community, as I've already mentioned, I'm really passionate about helping people recognize how connected we are if we seek those opportunities. When we reach out to other people, when we give other people the opportunity to support us, to listen to our story, to help lift us back up, we're helping them feel better. We feel great when we give to other people. When we participate in community service, we feel good. It helps to put things into context, into perspective. It helps us to feel like we're part of a solution instead of just watching problems happen. And so when we reach out, we're not weighing other people down. We're giving them an opportunity to support and to feel better in return. And we then have that opportunity to support them, to understand that their story is unfolding at the same time and that all of this is happening together, right? It helps us to get out of ourselves and to recognize that there is a greater experience that's happening. And then together, we can look for solutions. We can be open to perspectives. When we look for what's within our control. And so I guess that's kind of a semi-tangent, but I also really think it's important. There's so many things that are outside of our immediate control that really take our attention, our energy,
Yes.
wreak havoc with our emotions. And again, we're just giving away our power when that's all we focus on. But what's within our control is, what do we want more of in the new year? Do we want a healthier relationship with food? Do I want to say my body matters and I'm going to exercise more days than not? That's what I'm focusing on in the new year. And then just keep coming back to it, right? Instead of saying, well, it's Friday and I haven't done anything since Sunday, so there goes that. Like, all right, this is a new week. How are we going to do better next week? How can we bring in some wins and start building on those? And that's that kind of momentum that moves us into a better direction, right? Like you said, building on those small wins is so important because it starts to open up space to have a little more energy, a little more positivity about bringing in one more change.
Mhm.
You know, we can build on that as opposed to feeling really overwhelmed when we think we have to do 12 new things every day and we haven't thought about how that can fit into our existing calendar. So
Mhm.
looking for those opportunities, I think is really important.
I can see where it's easy for me to talk about the types of people going through transition and uh, tangents in their lives and moving on. It's easy for me to see that, but people just don't understand that. I stress in Strategy for Destiny, What Were You Born to Do, that no one cares about your dream except you. And if you don't do something about it, if you don't lasso that dream and figure out what it is, if you don't take my course, that's fine. But if you don't go see Susie, if you don't if you don't get on Zoom calls or buy the courses of some of the other people who are part of this summit, you are woe unto thee. I mean, it's just a depressing life and a continuous lifestyle of regret. And I say, where are you going to be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, doing the same things that people expected you to do or forced you to do? How old are you going to be when you finally latch onto that dream? When you finally get it down in your craw that you got to talk to Susie. You have to talk to Coach Rick. You have to move ahead and just put on those blinders. And all the people who will say, you don't need to do anything. What are you trying to get above your raisin? You're too young. You're too old. You're not the right ethnicity. You're not the right age. You're overly educated. You're undereducated. You can't do these things. And yet, when they come to me, when they come to you, and they pour out their hearts because they want somebody who they can look to as an authority. I'm one of those people, and you are definitely, I sing your praises, young lady. You are definitely one of those people who will take somebody's life, and you'll take that beating heart, and you'll massage it and massage it and massage it. And probably through a lot of tears, probably through a lot of just soul searching, because there's that hole in your soul. And we can talk for hours about that hole in your soul and about the 2 or 3 different holes that are there and what it takes to fill those. But for right now, it's the Susie Vine show. And I am so grateful to you. Is there anything else that you want to throw in? We're getting towards the end of our time together this time, but there will be more. And anything else you want to close this out with there, young lady?
What comes to my mind and what you're just saying, and thank you. I won't go too far afield, but we get what we're looking for. And so when we look for reasons not to, we look for all the reasons now isn't the time, or we're not ready, or we don't have the resources, we'll find plenty of evidence. But if we look for what we want, if we look for opportunities, if we look for helpers, if we look for ideas, then they will be able to find us. We will notice them when they come onto our path.
Yeah. It's a lot of people. It's a trust factor. They're looking for somebody to be an authority in their lives, but they've trusted so many potential authorities who have stabbed them in the back, who have walked away from them, run away from them, ruined their reputations or whatever they've done. And for them to come to you or to come to me or some of the other speakers on this summit, it takes a lot of guts, just plain old guts, guts to say, I'm going to do something with my life. And you know what? I would tell people who are going to come to you exactly what I tell people who come to me. Don't talk about it. Don't tell people you're taking this course. Don't tell them that you're working with Susie Vine. Don't tell them that you're working with Coach Rick. Don't tell them that until you've gone through it all and your life has changed and people are looking at you and listening to you and going, what's up with you? You're different. What did you do? And they get curious, and then you're solid enough after working with you, after working with me. They're solid enough that nobody can shoot them out of their saddle. And that's when the life changes. They become strong, they become permanent. And I know that's what I'm looking for, because I've been around a lot longer than you have. And I just want people to be free. I want them to be free to live the life that they were born to live, to be the person they were born to be, and to do the things they were born to do. And I'll tell you, I have enjoyed a lot of these interviews. This is one of the top ones, definitely. And so let's sign off here. And just remember, folks, if you want to be able to come back to listen to Susie again, which I would definitely recommend, you need to upgrade to VIP. And I'll just tell you, just do it. Just upgrade to VIP. You get the whole of everything. You get it all in a package. You're able to access it. You're able to listen to her again. And it's a good thing to do, because if you were uplifted by what you've heard this time, you need to go back and listen to her again, and then give her a call. Get on that cell phone for something other than TikTok, and just work with this lady. Okay, so I guess we are done for now, and see you in the next interview.
It's been a treat. Thank you so much.
Thank you. There you have it. Day 3 of the Achieve Your Dream Summit has come to a close. So I ask, are you getting ready to watch the final game-changing speaker interviews on day 4? We'll meet again, same time tomorrow, with our final powerful group of guest speakers who will share their stories and expertise. As with all of our experts, they will be sharing information that could take you a lifetime to learn, but you get it all in only 4 days.